Chapter 1847. The huge demon looked up at Chun Zhao. Looks like you don't want to tell me. Chun Zhao grabbed the demon's head and shoulder. I'll ask you one last time. Are you willing to tell me where your master is in Bermuda? The huge demon closed its eyes, looking as if it would rather die than submit. Fine. Maeve's pupils constricted. She saw Chun Zhao tear off the demon's head. Blood spurted out. Maeve was shocked. The huge demon's head suddenly opened its eyes in Chun Zhao's hand. It stared straight at Chun Zhao with a terrifying gaze. But Chun Zhao didn't care. The 4 psionic team members and the 3 demons on the other side all gasped. Kill him, the terror demon roared. Kill that human. His servants and big-headed demons swarmed toward Chun Zhao. Maeve saw the flood of demons and took a few steps back in fear. Chun Zhao raised his right arm. Holy light cannon. A white blast shot out from Chun Zhao's palm. Boom! In an instant, hundreds of big-headed demons were covered by the white blast and turned to dust. Only a few dozen large-headed evil demons managed to survive. Everyone was stunned. They stared at Chun Zhao in astonishment. Brits and the others knew that Chun Zhao was strong. They knew that Chun Zhao was stronger than all of them. But this time, their understanding of Chun Zhao was refreshed. Chun Zhao had a smile on his face. I don't really want to get involved in your fight. Chun Zhao tossed the head in his left hand. But if you really want me to get involved, I'm happy to. Fritz's expression became even more serious. It wasn't because of the demon that looked like Sadako. It was because Chun Zhao was stronger than he'd imagined. Fritz somewhat understood Vistana's attitude back then. The difference was so huge that it was hard to even think about fighting back. Chun Zhao actually wasn't in a good mood, because he'd helped the psionic team solve some problems. The remaining 3 demons weren't weak, but the psionic team members were strong too. In particular, the strength of the tank was clearly superior. Fritz was still holding back. So boring. Chun Zhao pouted. Putting away the blood container, he turned to leave. Seeing Chun Zhao leave, Maeve couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Chun Zhao had never attacked her, but with Chun Zhao by her side, she felt a lot of pressure. Moreover, Chun Zhao's attitude towards this hellish scene was indifferent. It made her feel very uncomfortable. But before Chun Zhao left, he made an opening at the bottom of the ship. The ship would slowly sink into the water. The next day, he saw the news. A cruise ship sank in American territorial waters. As always, he covered it up. However, this was understandable. After all, if the public knew about the existence of the supernatural realm, they even learned that there were demons in their world. That would bring about social unrest. The panic of the people might even be used by those with ulterior motives. Chun Zhao understood this. However, just like the previous incident, it happened in the waters near Los Angeles. This was why Chun Zhao had always been unhappy. After all, Chun Zhao saw the entire L.A. area as his territory. Now, there was a group of blind people causing trouble in the vicinity. This made Chun Zhao feel like he had been insulted. West, did you see the news about the cruise ship sinking in the waters near Los Angeles? Wait, I will take a look. Is there something wrong with the news? It was done by a group of demons. Their habitat is near Bermuda, Chun Zhao said. This isn't the first time they've caused trouble in the nearby waters. I've dealt with them 3 or 4 times. Huh? I don't know about this at all. The Anti-Terrorism Security Department must have kept this information and assigned it to the psionic team, Chun Zhao said. Last night, Chun Zhao told them what had happened last night, except for the game between him and the American Air Force. Are these guys trying to steal our rice bowls so blatantly? West sounded rather dissatisfied. What do you think? Chun Zhao asked. Are those demons in Bermuda? Yes, they should be in that area, but I'm not sure the exact location. How strong are these demons? I think there are a few very powerful beings among these demons. There might even be some that are on par with me. Chun Zhao wasn't very sure. Then let the psionic team die, West said. If we leak this information to the government, they'll definitely give us a mission. With the Anti-Terrorism Security Department's personality, they'll definitely keep this mission. Are you sure this plan can trick the psionic team? Chun Zhao asked. Don't let us trick ourselves. Cover up some information. As long as they don't know the exact information and the demon's strength, I think the psionic team will be happy to steal our mission. Wes was indeed a sly old fox. He didn't feel guilty at all for doing such a ruthless thing. Anyway, you'll do it, Chun Zhao said. Don't let the government know that we're the ones behind this. Never go against the government. The anti-terrorism security department was far from the government. At noon, Stephen arrived at Chun Zhao's moon villa. 2 of his bodyguards came along with him. Wow, Princess Chun. Is she princess? Stephen exclaimed as he looked at the huge princess. He was already used to the princess form in the past. He wasn't that shocked. But now, Princess was twice as big as before. Stephen stood in front of the princess with a body as big as a hill. He could feel the oppressive aura emanating from the princess. What did almost 3,000 kilograms mean? It was almost the weight of an adult Asian elephant. Of course, Princess wasn't even as big as an Asian elephant. This was mainly because Princess muscles were tighter. But it was still shocking. Stephen's 2 bodyguards, Frank and Famdis, were also shocked. Chun, how did Princess become so big? She's been eating a lot lately, Chun Zhao said. Stephen rolled his eyes, but he knew that Chun Zhao had secrets. Can Princess handle those crocodiles? Raymond is enough, Chun Zhao said. Although the princess had been reborn, there was still a fundamental gap between her and Raymond. Also, Princess has to take care of her child. Don't bring her. Raymond can handle those crocodiles. Chapter 1848. How about we bring Briar and Bramble too? Chun Zhao rolled his eyes. Have Princess deal with the crocodiles and bring Briar and Bramble. Those 2 are good at causing trouble. Have them deal with the crocodiles. Don't get eaten by them. Fine. Actually, I want to bring Princess, Briar, and Bramble to my house. I'll call Raymond out. Oh, what car did you drive? Chun Zhao asked. Big truck. Sure, no problem. Chun Zhao clapped his hands. Raymond shot out of the grass like a bolt of lightning. Even though Frank and Famtis had seen Raymond before, they were still shocked by his appearance. Stephen took Raymond away. Chun Zhao also told Raymond to do what he needed to do. After dropping Raymond off on Stephen's land, Famtis and Frank were a bit worried. They didn't dare to open Raymond. After all, Chun Zhao wasn't here. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and open the truck. Mr. Stephen, that snake won't eat us, right? After all, Mr. Chun isn't here. Don't worry, Stephen said nonchalantly. I'm very close to Raymond. He even slept in my arms when he was young. Okay, Mr. Stephen, if that snake is in danger, you have to protect us. Frank pulled open the door of the container, and Raymond jumped out. Raymond's huge body made all of Frank's hair stand on end. Raymond's tail swung at Frank. Frank was slapped to the ground. Haha, Raymond, sorry. He didn't mean to say bad things about you. Stephen went up and touched Raymond's body. Raymond lowered his head and let Stephen touch him. Raymond had clearly done it on purpose. Raymond, I'll leave this place to you, Stephen said. Raymond nodded and slipped into the bushes. Frank got up gloomily and returned to Stephen's side. Mr. Stephen, Famtis also said, why that snake only wants to take revenge on me. Famtis knows Raymond, Stephen said matter-of-factly. Fine. Famtis thought of the night he stayed over at Chun Zhao's house. When Stephen was running for his life, she had escorted him to Chun Zhao's house in the middle of the night, and she saw with her own eyes that Raymond tore the monster that was chasing after Stephen into pieces. It was not a pleasant memory. Mr. Stephen, can that guy really handle so many crocodiles? Who? Suddenly, a 5-meter-long crocodile descended from the sky. He landed right in front of Frank. The crocodile's neck had been broken, and the angle of its head and body was very uncoordinated. However, when he suddenly landed in front of Frank, the 3 of them were startled. Frank, don't you think you should be more careful with your words? Frank wanted to cry. Mr. Stephen, is that guy so vengeful? Right? Raymond has killed people before. Stephen patted Frank's shoulder. Snakes are very vengeful. I heard that in Africa, reticulated pythons will take revenge on the local natives. There was a real incident where the partner of a reticulated python was killed by a native, and that reticulated python killed 12 people from that tribe in one night. Famudis added fuel to the fire. Uncle, Kalan and I plan to go to England the day after tomorrow. Xianli stood before Chun Zhao, looking a bit reserved. Did you find any clues? Chen Zhao asked. There's a clue. We found out that the original owner of the Book of Prometheus was a man called Aaron Lebos. In 1970, he donated the Book of Prometheus to the British Museum. Now that he's already 98 years old, perhaps he doesn't even need to steal from the British Museum to find out about the contents of the Book of Prometheus from Aaron Lebos. Xianli said. Chen Zhao thought about it and nodded. Take this credit card. Chen Zhao had prepared this credit card a long time ago. He could check the credit card's spending records anytime and anywhere. So, as long as Xianli wanted to spend money, Chen Zhao could roughly know their whereabouts. Of course, this was apart from the credit card. More, Lisa and Ruan Faxbin would also report their whereabouts in real time. Thank you, Uncle. Come back safely. Chen Zhao hugged Xianli. Okay, golden apple? Chen Zhao really wanted to know if the golden apple was actually edible. But he also knew that in the magic world, many things that sounded like food actually had nothing to do with food. Uncle, can I go on adventures in the future? Dadaira looked at Chen Zhao with watery eyes. Chen Zhao's face twitched. If you're stronger than Xianli, I'll let you go on adventures. As a parent, they wanted to keep their child by their side for the rest of their lives. Because all parents thought that their child was a child that hadn't grown up. No matter how old the child was, they all thought so. For example, Xianli was going to find some golden apple. How much preparation had Chen Zhao done? Any parent would do the same. Chen Zhao really wanted to find the golden apple himself. Then, he went to the headquarters. He found Lisa, Moore, and Ruan Faxbin to ask them about their preparations. They'd all prepared some equipment and large amounts of medicine. At the same time, Chen Zhao warned them to prioritize safety. President, I've finished the magic tool you asked me to make last time, Ruan Faxbin said. Over the past few days, he'd been working hard and finally completed the magic tool that Chen Zhao had requested. Ruan Faxi was very curious about who designed the design of the magic tool. It was definitely a design that surpassed genius. He couldn't even imagine how exquisite it was. If he hadn't seen the design, Ruan Faxbin would be a frog at the bottom of a well. Only after seeing it did he understand how vast the world was. Although he'd completed the tool according to the design, it didn't mean that he was at the same level. Design was design. Manufacturing was manufacturing. He was just a high-level worker. The truly powerful person was the one who designed the tool. That was someone that he couldn't compare to or reach. Take me to see, Chen Zhao said. Ruan Faxbin brought Chen Zhao to his lab. Chen Zhao saw that Nur was locked in his lab. Nur was still glaring at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao ignored Nur's gaze. Ruan Faxbin pressed a few keys on the lab's wall. The wall opened. There was a metal ball about 2 meters in diameter inside. It was covered in protrusions. Is this it? Chapter 1849. Chen Zhao lifted the metal ball with one hand. Gurnier sucked in a cold breath. So strong. This magic tool wasn't much in the eyes of humans. But to demons, it was a terrifying demon-slaying weapon. Of course, the core of the weapon hadn't been installed yet. The angelic crystal was the true core. Ruan Faxbin had only made the outer shell. Chen Zhao put the weapon away. Then he looked at Gyunel. She seems to be in good condition. Gyunel was chained up in the lab like a dog. However, her arrogance made her unwilling to yield even in the face of despair. Ruan Faxbin looked at Gyunel. Gyunel, if you can't control your gaze again, maybe I'll use your eyeballs for an experiment. Gyunel lowered her head, avoiding Chen Zhao and Ruan Faxbin's gazes. Chen Zhao and Ruan Faxbin walked out of the lab. I heard she's related to you, Chen Zhao asked. Ruan Faxbin was already prepared for this question. There were no secrets in the headquarters. When he'd asked Gyunel last time, they'd talked about how the matter would spread. It was only a matter of time before it reached Chen Zhao's ears. If there's no accident, she should be my daughter, Ruan Faxbin said. Your daughter? Chen Zhao looked at Ruan in surprise. Why was this different from what he'd heard? The daughter of my student and I, Ruan Faxbin said. Ruan Faxbin said, she was my former student, a Fumin. We had sex, and then one day, a Fumin found out that I wanted to do research on her, so she ran away pregnant. Chen Zhao's face darkened. Ruan Fasheben was really despicable. He'd used his student, woman, and the mother of his child as an experiment. President, I didn't want to do anything, Ruan Fasheben said helplessly. I just want to take some blood and skin tissue. It won't hurt her at all. She's thinking too much. You never thought about getting them back? Yes, but she's purposely avoiding me. What can I do? Ruan Fasheben said helplessly. My connections are limited. I can't find them either. Then what do we do with her? Chen Zhao asked. Let's lock him up for now. Ruan sighed. Send her to the dungeon, Chen Zhao said. At least the conditions there are not bad. Just then, Chen Zhao looked in the direction of the lab. She doesn't seem to be well behaved. Didn't you chain her tightly? Ruan Faxburn scratched his head. The lock was randomly found. Gurnier poked his head out and glanced at both ends of the corridor. In the end, he happened to see Chen Zhao and Ruan Faxburn standing in the corridor. Gurnier immediately returned to the lab and broke through the window. Gurnier somersaulted in the air, kneeled on one knee, and landed steadily on the ground. Just then, Jinder walked over. Gakula looked at the broken window on the second floor, then at Gyunel. Did you go the wrong way? Gyunel charged straight at Jinkira and attacked without saying a word. Gage lifted his leg and kicked Neil in the stomach. Jinkira had the bloodline of a berserker and was several times stronger than ordinary people in his normal state. Neil rolled a few times on the ground and stood up again. Just then, she revealed a bracer on her wrist. She'd stolen this bracer from Ruan Faxaben's lab. She'd seen Ruan Faxaben use this bracer before. Neil pressed a button on the bracer. Instantly, a screen of light shot out from the bracer and enveloped Jinkira. But before it could land on Jinkira, the screen disappeared. Chen Zhao and Ruan Faxaben looked down at Neil from the window. Your bracer doesn't seem to be very useful. This gauntlet needs to be infused with magic. Where did she get the magic? Since it needs mana, how did she activate it? It should be her pain power. I didn't think that it could be activated too. Gurnier cursed in exasperation. It was at this moment that Gatella rushed over again. Uppercut, left hook, right hook, mystical dragon tail whip. A series of consecutive moves directly beat Gurnier to the point where he couldn't even tell which way was north. However, Neil, who had the primordial bloodline, stood up again. Gyunel then took out a large piece of bright red cloth from his bosom and covered his body. In the blink of an eye, Gurnier disappeared from where he stood. Oh, a magic item that can turn invisible. Chen Zhao was surprised. Ruan Faxaben shook his head. This invisibility cloak is good for ordinary people, but it's much worse than Osalice's invisibility. Osalice's invisibility can even completely cover one's aura. We can equip Klaus and the others. If we equip them, we need to consider putting a mana source. Otherwise, they won't be able to use it at all. Neil was originally invisible. However, Jinkira punched the air, and Gyunel immediately let out a blood-curdling scream. Neil also found it unbelievable that Jinkira could attack her while she was invisible. Neil didn't understand it all. After entering the Tower of Trials, they faced hundreds and thousands of monsters. They needed to predict the monsters' attacks and sense their attack patterns. If they couldn't do these two things, they wouldn't even be able to pass the first level. Jinkira's main job was to forge weapons, but that didn't mean that she was weak. Of course, Gakula's battle prowess was among the bottom few in the entire association. But if she couldn't even deal with Neil, then she should find a place to slit her own throat. Seeing that invisibility was useless against Jinkira, Neil could only put away the cloak. She realized that using the cloak continuously made her weaker and weaker. Neil took out a crystal ball the size of a ping-pong ball. Ruan, how many magic items did you give her? President, my things are all in the lab. How would I know how many she took? Ruan Faxaben was frustrated too, because he usually left large amounts of magic items and materials in the lab. He didn't even know how many things were in the lab. Neil smashed the crystal ball on the ground. The black gas in the crystal ball enveloped Neil. Jinji threw a punch, but when his fist landed on Gurnier's body, it felt like he was punching air. What's the effect of the crystal ball? Chapter 1850. That's a temporary mist crystal, Ruan said. It can be temporarily immune to physical attacks. Immune to physical attacks? Chen Zhao tilted his head and glanced at Ruan. Of course not completely. Ruan Faxi didn't want to let Chen Zhao try. As the creator of this fog crystal, Ruan Faxi knew the limits of this fog crystal. Generally speaking, spiritualists who possessed atomization or other elemental magic could reassemble their bodies even if they were physically attacked or if their atomization form was scattered. However, the ability obtained from the mist crystal couldn't gather again. If a physical attack exceeded a certain level, the mist form would scatter and the body would be severely injured. To put it simply, the mist crystal's ability was a weakened version of true elemental spells. Of course, elemental spells weren't truly invincible. There were countless ways to counter elemental spells. For example, Chen Zhao's mouth of gluttony could directly devour elements. It could directly pose a fatal threat to the user. However, Chen Zhao's level was overwhelming. Another example was Jalanash's elemental spells, which are the bane of elemental spells. This was an elemental counter. Elemental spells had strong physical resistance. However, their magic resistance was greatly reduced. For example, if a person used water or mist form and the opponent threw a curse at them, they would basically take as much damage as they could. The magic damage would even be several times higher than the original damage. Thus, elemental spells were also very lacking. Realizing that his attack was useless, Gitkira's fist suddenly became hot, and he reached into the mist. Neil screamed, and the mist effect disappeared. Gitkira was the weakest in the association, but he was more than enough to deal with Neil. Even if Neil stole Ruan's various magic tools, it was useless. The difference in power was obvious. If Neil used her ancient bloodline to take Gitkira's attack head-on, she might have a chance to escape. However, she had to use all sorts of magic tools that she wasn't familiar with. Most of them were weakened versions of traditional spells. How could she deal with Gitkira? Neil vomited a few mouthfuls of blood. That punch hadn't hurt her physically, but the heat. Gurnier knelt on one knee, even though she was injured. She was injured, but it also provided her with the power of pain. Gurnier patted his shoes. Suddenly, Gyunel felt weightless. The moment she took a step forward, Gurnier had already traveled more than 10 meters. Jinkira's eyes widened. So fast. Ner finally understood. Fight Gaekla or anyone else in the society. She didn't have the slightest chance of winning, so she decided to run away. It was all thanks to Ruan Faxbin's experiments in the lab that he didn't avoid her. Ner could feel that the pain was decreasing rapidly. The ability to move as if he was flying was very refreshing. But it couldn't be maintained for too long. At this moment, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky without any warning. Bang! Gurnier was struck in the head by the lightning and was instantly blasted away. He stood up with difficulty. All of the magic tools on Gurnier's body had failed. Gurnier wobbled and turned to look at Chen Zhao and Ruan Faxburn on the windowsill. Come on, kill me. Kill me if you dare. Gurnier roared furiously. In an instant, the originally calm dark clouds in the sky flashed with lightning and thunder. Rumble. Between the dark clouds, there was a terrifying thunderstorm. In the blink of an eye, the headquarters of the society seemed to be enveloped by the apocalypse. The atmosphere was so heavy that everyone felt suffocated. A terrifying bolt of lightning descended from the sky, but didn't just flash by. Instead, it streaked across the ground, leaving a scorching chasm. It charged toward Gurnier. Gurnier finally felt the threat of death. The bolt of lightning was too terrifying. It was more terrifying than she could imagine. At that moment, all of her confidence, courage, and pride turned into nothingness. I admit defeat. Rumble. The lightning finally stopped before Gurnier, but all of its energy was released in that instant. A huge pit appeared in the ground. The surrounding ground was scorched too. Gurnier was blasted away by the explosion. Ruan Faxbin was quite annoyed too. After all, Gurnier was his daughter. Chen Zhao had scolded his daughter in front of him. What could he do? Luckily, Chen Zhao didn't kill him. Ruan Faxbin started to complain. Even if Gurnier wanted to escape, she should have chosen a time when Chun Zhao wasn't there. Escape when Chun Zhao was at the headquarters. Was that any different from suicide? In the headquarters, Chun Zhao was like a god. Nothing could escape Chun Zhao's eyes. Ruan Faxbin walked before Gurnier. "Follow me." Gurnier stood up with difficulty and followed silently. Ruan Faxbin brought Gurnier to the dungeon. A few rooms in the dungeon were already occupied. Moraz stood before one of the glass rooms and talked to the occupant inside. The connected cells were all occupied by her former companions. Moraz would basically visit them every day. Only half a year had passed of their 3-year sentence. But they'd basically accepted reality now. Ruan Faxbin pointed at an empty glass cell and said to Gurnier, "Go in. How long are you going to lock me up for?" "Until I think you can come out," Ruan Faxbin said. "Give me an exact time." "There's no exact time," Ruan Faxbin said. Ruan Faxbin said, "You shouldn't have chosen to run away now. You've wasted a chance. This is your only chance." Gurnier frowned. She suddenly realized that Ruan Faxbin had let her go on purpose. That lock was specially prepared for her by Ruan Faxbin, and even the magic equipment was deliberately shown to her. "Give me another chance. I won't make the same mistake twice." "No chance." Ruan Faxbin shook his head. "You've already wasted your only chance. The president won't allow you to escape again, nor will he allow me to let you go again. I know a human's information. What I want to know is more information, more accurate information, not vague and uncertain information. Let me out, and I'll tell you." "Gurnier, you don't have any other choice," Ruan Faxbin said. Ruan Faxbin said, "Forget it. We'll talk when you're willing to talk. Just calm down here." Chapter 1851. "Portia, take care of the house," Chun Zhao said. "Boss, where are you going?" Lee's going to travel around the world," Chun Zhao said, pushing his suitcase. "I'm going to send her off." "Boss, I can't take care of so many kids by myself." Portia's face was filled with reluctance. She'd only been to Japan once in her 20 years, and she'd gone with Chun Zhao. In the end, she owed a huge sum of money in Japan and even encountered the once-in-a-thousand-years Mount Fuji eruption. How old was Lee? She'd be able to travel around the world. Chun Zhao glanced at Portia and narrowed his eyes. "Oh, you asked me for a day and a half off a few days ago, right?" "Boss, I got it. I'll take care of the kids." "Good girl." Chun Zhao finally smiled in satisfaction. "Oh, how was your audition a few days ago?" Portia turned her head away, not wanting to answer the question. Although she had Steven's introduction, her performance in the audition studio was too poor. The result was obvious. She'd lost the role. Sometimes, even Steven's face didn't matter when he was being cheated. What face did Steven have? It could even be said that Steven could recommend a secondary role with just a word. It could be said that if Steven wanted to recommend a secondary character, it would only take a word from him. This also showed how low Portia's acting standards were. It's okay. I'll ask Steven for a recommendation next time. Portia was instantly filled with energy. "Boss, don't worry. I'll take good care of your kids. Let's go." Lee. Lee didn't have much luggage. 2 not-so-big suitcases were filled. When Chun Zhao and Lee arrived at the airport, Fei Lai ran over too. She was supposed to be at Angel Beach. A while later, Risa, Moore, and Ruan Faxbin arrived one after another. Then Kalan arrived too. "Ruan, where's your luggage?" Chun Zhao looked at the empty-handed Ruan Faxbin. "Most of my luggage is contraband, so I chose to check it through other channels," Ruan Faxbin said. "You sure know how to be lazy." Lee, be careful." Fei Lai hugged Lee. "Yes, Auntie Fei Lai." Lee had always known, even though they weren't her real parents. But their concern for her was genuine. Ever since Lee decided to go on an adventure, Chun Zhao and Fei Lai had never said that they would try to find the golden apple. They only had one request, and that was to be safe. They had patiently repeated this request countless times. That was a request, or even a request, that only a family member would make. "When you come back, our whole family will search for the legendary treasure island." Auntie Fei Lai, I'll come back safely. Chun Zhao was on the other side, his arm resting on Lisa's shoulder. If anything happens to Xian Li, I will send the three of you to hell. I mean what I say. Risa and Ruan Faxi suddenly regretted instigating Xian Li in the first place. Moore, on the other hand, was innocent. He wasn't involved in Risa and Ruan's conspiracy at all. All right, your flight is about to arrive. Go into the departure lounge. Chun Zhao and Fei Lai sent the five to the departure lounge and watched as they entered. Fei Lai, do you still have to work today? I have to go back to the coastal rescue team. I asked Robio for 3 hours of leave. Okay, I'll send you back. No need, Fei Lai said. Go to the supermarket and buy some things. We're almost out of daily necessities. There were many people in the house, so things were consumed quickly. Okay, be careful. After leaving the airport, Chun Zhao called Andrews first. Andrews, I need to withdraw some cash, $200,000. I'll go get it now. Help me prepare it. Chun Zhao often used cash, so he always kept some cash at home. This was the benefit of being a top client of the bank. He didn't need to make an appointment to withdraw large amounts of cash. If it was 2 years ago, Chun Zhao would need to make an appointment to withdraw $10,000. When Chun Zhao arrived at the bank, Amira knew that Chun Zhao was coming, so she came looking for him at the right time. Chun, do you want to come to my office? Business or private? Chun Zhao asked. It's not a big deal. Amira shrugged. My father's construction site is about to be completed. He heard that you Chinese are all good at feng shui, so he wants to ask you to check it. Ever since that incident, Amira's father, Depp, believed in such things. After hearing about feng shui, he wanted to ask Chun Zhao to check it out for him. I don't know how. You don't. I can introduce you to an expert in this area, Chun Zhao said. Also, the person I'm introducing is very skilled. His fees aren't as crazy as mine. All right, give me his contact information. Chun Zhao gave Li Qing's number to Amira. Oh, be more respectful to this person, Chun Zhao said seriously. She's my teacher. Chun Zhao wasn't worried about Amira's attitude. Amira always had a professional smile and attitude to everyone. She definitely wouldn't let Li Qing suffer. But Amira's father, Depp, was a jerk. An arrogant, rude bastard. After hearing that this person was Chun Zhao's teacher, Amira also became serious. Don't worry, I won't mistreat your teacher. Is the cash ready? Chun Zhao asked. Yes, I'll have Andrews send it over. A while later, Andrews came with the money. Mr. Chun, here's the cash you withdrew. Please count it. Chun Zhao nodded and turned to Amira. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. After leaving the office and passing by the bank, Chun Zhao saw a figure. It was KG Sayer. KG Sayer also saw Chun Zhao. The two glanced at each other and saw the displeasure in each other's eyes. Chun Zhao thought for a moment. Should he greet that woman? Forget it. He wasn't familiar with her at all. Suddenly, 6 masked people came in from a bank. The first to react was the bank security guard, but before he could do anything, a gun was already pressed against his temple. Don't react. Please cooperate. It's fun. A masked man fired a volley of bullets from above. Clatter, clatter. Raise your hands and get on the ground. You're facing a robbery. Please don't give me a reason to kill you. Chapter 1852. Chun Zhao immediately laid on the ground and covered his head with his hands. KG Sayer's face was full of mockery. But just then, a masked robber walked up. The gun but smashed heavily on KG Sayer's neck. Lie down and cover your head. KG Sayer stumbled and fell to the ground. KG Sayer was both shocked and furious. But the situation was against her, so she could only lie on the ground obediently. KG Sayer turned to look at Chun Zhao. She realized that Chun Zhao was looking at her with a mocking expression. KG Sayer was furious. What's there to be proud of? By now, the bank was completely under control. More than a dozen bank staff and customers had become hostages. 2 masked robbers armed with automatic rifles were watching over a dozen hostages. Then, the bank's counter door was opened. One had to know that it could only be opened from inside. This meant that there was a mole among the bank staff. These robbers were too professional. In a minute, they'd already taken out 2 boxes from the bank's vault. Chen Zhao lay on the ground and looked at the masked robbers who'd come out from the backstage. 2 boxes? These 2 boxes could hold a few $1,000,000. But Chen Zhao felt that they'd only gotten so little money after such a big fight. It was really child's play. The inside of the 2 boxes seemed to be wrapped in aluminum. Even Chen Zhao's little world couldn't sense what was in the boxes. But they probably hadn't been taken out from a vault. Instead, they'd been taken out from a safe. Their target wasn't the cash. It made sense. This was Citibank's regional headquarters. If they wanted to rob cash, they wouldn't be able to get much with so few people. With their professional methods, it would be easier for them to rob a branch with a weaker defense, and they would be able to rob more money. Just then, Chen Zhao realized that the police had arrived. Oh no, the police are here. Our escape route is blocked. A masked robber had been guarding the window outside, monitoring the situation outside. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. He picked it up. Hello, Fei Lai. Oh, we've run out of female products. Remember to buy some when you go to the supermarket later. Okay, I'll try my best. I'm in the bank now, but I'm robbed. Hang up the phone now. Hang up now. The 2 masked robbers guarding the hostages both pointed their guns at him. Let's not talk about it now. The robbers are pointing their guns at me now. All right, don't take too long. When KG Sauter looked at Chen Zhao, she looked at him as if he was crazy. This fellow is seeking death, isn't he? As soon as Chen Zhao hung up, another call came in. Don't answer the phone. The masked robber stood before Chen Zhao and pointed the gun at his head. Chen Zhao looked at the masked robber and said matter-of-factly, let's understand each other. I'm not going to tell anyone. Don't answer the phone. Do you want to die? But the threat didn't stop Chen Zhao from picking up the phone. Hang up. Hang up now. The masked robber's voice grew louder. I'm going to shoot. Hey, Chen, are you in the office? It was Amira who called him. Yeah, I'm being held hostage right now, Chen Zhao said helplessly. The robber is pointing a gun at my head. Are you kidding? I'm serious. Chen Zhao opened the video chat. Look, take care of them, Amira said. The thing they want is very important. Is it okay if I kill them by accident? It's okay. They're robbers. Oh, take care of the bank surveillance too. Just then, the masked robber loaded his gun. The other hostages didn't dare to look up. Just as the robber was about to shoot, Chen Zhao attacked without any warning. He grabbed the automatic rifle. Before the robber could react, his hand was empty. The gun was already in Chen Zhao's hand. Bang! Chen Zhao raised the gun and smashed it into the robber's face with the butt. The other robber's reaction wasn't slow. He quickly turned his gun toward Chen Zhao. Groin kick. Chen Zhao lifted the gun with one hand and kicked with the other. The 2 robbers guarding the hostages fell to the ground. Chen Zhao raised the gun and fired at the remaining 4 robbers. The 4 masked robbers immediately hid behind pillars and bunkers. All the bullets missed. Chen Zhao threw away the rifle in anger. As expected, he was cursed by the bullets. The hostages didn't even dare to look up. They trembled in the gunshots. Chen Zhao had already appeared behind a pillar. The 4 robbers were all beaten to ground. Chen Zhao picked up the phone. Amira, it's done. Amira was speechless. 30 seconds. In just 30 seconds, the bank crisis was solved. The police broke in. Chen Zhao stood there with his hands raised. A few policemen surrounded him with their guns. Hands on your head and get on the ground. Sometimes, the police were no different from robbers. Stop, he's not a robber. Amira had already followed the police in. Chen Zhao and Amira exchanged glances. Amira glanced at the 2 boxes beside Chen Zhao. She opened the boxes and checked the contents. Chen Zhao saw many documents in the boxes. Judging from Amira's nervous expression, the documents were clearly very important. By now, the police had already learned what had happened from the hostages. Most of the hostages didn't dare to look up, but they could still vaguely see Chen Zhao's actions. The police were shocked by Chen Zhao's abilities, but they didn't make things difficult for him. After all, he defeated 6 armed robbers by himself. He was basically like the main characters in movies. Is there anything missing? No. Thank you, Chen. Amira heaved a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, Chen Zhao was here this time. Otherwise, she'd be in great trouble. The police came over and asked a few more questions. Chun Zhao answered them truthfully. He also explained how he dealt with the 6 robbers. Of course, the police didn't watch the surveillance, so they couldn't know the exact process. KG Sayer was also being interviewed. She glanced at Chun Zhao from afar. She was also shocked by Chun Zhao's abilities. At the beginning, she'd seen Chun Zhao lying on the ground so decisively. She thought that Chun Zhao was really a coward. In the end, Chun Zhao shocked everyone with a single move. Just now, she'd secretly watched Chun Zhao's counterattack. The entire process had been too fast. First, he'd killed the 2 robbers guarding the hostages. Then, he'd forced the remaining 4 robbers behind cover with his gun. Finally, he'd finished them off like a tornado. Chapter 1853. In a luxurious manner, a fat man in a nightgown looked at the man with a mustache in front of him. Fail? Joseph asked in surprise. That's not possible. Didn't you say you were professionals? We've never failed a commission before. The mustached Jax said calmly. The plan was going well, but there was a very powerful person among the hostages. He beat the expert I hire by himself. Who? Joseph asked with a frown. Don't worry about who he is. He's not part of the plan, Jax said calmly. Jax knew Joseph's personality. He probably wanted to take revenge. Jax didn't care who Joseph wanted to take revenge on, but the premise was that it didn't affect his plan, and someone who was able to kill 6 militants. He must be very powerful. Jax didn't like to involve this kind of enemy. Tell me, who stopped me? Joseph asked relentlessly. That's not part of my plan, Jax said coldly. I need that person's information. If you want to take revenge on that person, then you can investigate it yourself, Jax said. Are you trying to shirk responsibility for your failure? Joseph looked at Jax in annoyance. He was the employer, but Jax didn't respect him at all. He still faced him with that indifferent attitude. Jax still didn't move, although he wasn't happy about it, but he still stuck to his principles. Commissions always came first, pulling a person with great combat power to the opposite side. It was very likely to bring about unpredictable variables. Jax also investigated the other party's identity. The other party was rich, a very rich person. In this country, having money meant having great influence and power. It was already difficult to get the documents from the Citibank safe. Adding a powerful enemy would make the problem even worse. Then I'll leave it to you now. I want you to kill the guy who gave me trouble, Joseph said. That person is rich, maybe even richer than you, Jax said. Do you know what will happen if you kill a super rich person like that? Oh, rich? Joseph narrowed his eyes. Then kidnap him or his family. Jax didn't answer. Kidnapping didn't need a commission. And who would pay the ransom for a commission? Count as a client? In that case, they might as well complete the kidnapping themselves. What if the client paid less than the ransom? Therefore, when it came to kidnapping, they would either do it themselves or not do it at all. Moreover, the impact of kidnapping a super rich person or his family was too bad. This would cause the entire upper class to unite against a common enemy. After all, no one was willing to put themselves or their family's safety at risk. How much ransom could a super rich person extort? Tens of millions of dollars was already the limit. After all, most of the rich people's assets were mostly real estate, not cash. It was unwise to go against a group for tens of millions of dollars. Moreover, there was still Joseph, who was greedy by nature. The commission he offered would definitely not be higher than the ransom. Joseph was very famous in the industry, even if he wasn't one. Joseph also had a nickname in the industry, Hyena. They specialized in embezzling other people's assets. As long as he could achieve his goal, he didn't mind using any means. Jax had worked with Joseph twice before. Joseph was a bad guy in the truest sense of the word. Every one of his money was bloody. After succeeding a few times in a row, Joseph's net worth skyrocketed, and his assets exceeded $1 billion USD. This also made him more and more complacent. Jax, on the other hand, knew the risks involved. Therefore, he always made his choices very carefully. Not every target was suitable to be their prey. A person who fought back against 6 armed men, and a super rich person at that. Using such a person as prey? He and Joseph would probably die a horrible death. Therefore, Jax always refused. If the target was someone who won the lottery and became rich overnight, Jax was willing to use the other person as prey. Because even if the other person was rich, his influence was very limited. As for the super rich who had great influence, even if he kidnapped his family and extorted tens of millions of dollars. But what next? Kill the hostage? Or not kill the hostage? No matter what he decided, the consequences would be very serious. Joseph saw that Jax wasn't happy, and his face darkened. He didn't like people disobeying his orders. Jax, are you going to refuse my commission? How much can you pay? Jax asked. 20 million. I've always been very generous to my own people. If you can get 200 million from that person, I'll give you another 20 million, Joseph said, as if he was generous. I'm sorry, I refuse. Jax refused without hesitation. Only an idiot would accept such an arduous and unrewarding task. Jax, are you really going to refuse my kindness? Do you know the consequences of this? Joseph, I know you better than anyone else, Jax said indifferently. Jax said indifferently. I know your background, your personality, and everything about you. So please don't threaten me. It won't do you any good. Joseph's face stiffened, and his cheeks twitched. Indeed, they had worked together many times, and Jax had too many secrets that could be used against him. Joseph's gaze towards Jax became a bit darker. He didn't like people who couldn't be controlled. It seemed that after this, their cooperation would end. He had to get rid of Jax and his team. Jax, I'm just joking with you. Fine, as you said, don't cause any more trouble before we get the documents. Joseph changed his expression again, and his attitude became broad-minded. If there's nothing else, I'll leave now. Jax turned around and left, not bothering to talk to Joseph at all. After leaving Joseph's manor, several of his men immediately surrounded him. Boss, Jax nodded and said, get ready. After this mission, don't contact this mad dog again. There's already a rift between us. Boss, I've heard some news. What news? My friend said that Los Angeles is very dangerous. It said that in the last 2 years, more than 5 top mercenary groups have disappeared here, and at least 20 killers have gone missing. Chapter 1854. What's going on? Jax frowned. I don't know. Anyway, Los Angeles has become a forbidden place for mercenaries and killers. The local gangs warned us to either leave as soon as possible or stay in Los Angeles. Could it be that the local gangs are deliberately mystifying things? No, I've investigated. It's true, the subordinate said seriously. More than 200 people are missing. Is there no more information? According to the local gang speculation, there might be a new power in Los Angeles. This power is very territorial and doesn't like outsiders doing missions in Los Angeles. Looks like we have to be careful, Jax said seriously. After all, we're outsiders. Jax had encountered such an organization or force before. Under normal circumstances, Jax would leave with his men. After all, a powerful dragon could not suppress a local snake. Moreover, it was not suitable to have a conflict with a local power without knowing the other party's background. Rather, they would rather have a conflict with the local gangs. They did not want to have a conflict with an armed group. Gangs and armed groups were two completely different concepts. Gangs, including the mafia, no matter what form they existed in, had a relatively loose internal structure. There were very few people who could be armed. Most of them had light weapons or no weapons at all. Even some of the armed forces were amateurs. Just like the gangsters in the movies where they could equip any kind of weapon, it was impossible to appear in reality. At least for a stable regime, it was impossible to allow such gangs to exist. However, some organizations and forces were different. They had much more powerful armed forces. Moreover, they might have connections with the government. Some organizations or forces were even formed by the government. They existed for a certain purpose. Therefore, if you offended them, the revenge you would receive would be extremely strong. No one wanted to have a conflict with such organizations. Even a professional team like Jax would not. Is there any local government department? Anti-Terrorism Security Department, the subordinate said. Anti-Terrorism Security Department. Jax frowned. Let's keep a low profile and try not to do anything ourselves. What about this mission? Try to find local people. We won't do anything. Got it. How was the bank robbery today? Fei Lai asked. It's quite boring. Chen Zhao shrugged. Those people aren't real professionals. They look more like pawns arranged by someone. In the beginning, Chen Zhao saw how fast they were. In just a minute, they had taken control of the situation in the bank. He thought they were professionals. In the end, they realized that they were only well-trained at best. He should be a retired soldier, but he was far from being an elite. Be it in terms of awareness or strength, they were quite average. Someone must be controlling them from behind the scenes. Even the spies in the bank were arranged by the people behind the scenes. They were just following the plan. Once Chen Zhao, who was not part of the plan, appeared, they didn't know what to do, especially when Chen Zhao answered the call. They couldn't make up their minds to shoot. This meant that they were not the kind of people who would kill indiscriminately. He was probably short on cash and wanted to earn some extra income. Then, he was hired to participate in this robbery. During the whole robbery, they did not kill anyone. This meant that they still had their own bottom line. Of course, this couldn't be a reason for them to get off scot-free. Amelia should know the truth, since the other party was here for the documents. And Amelia's reaction showed that he cared about the documents. This meant that Amelia knew the other party's identity. After dinner, Chen Zhao picked up his phone and called Amelia. Amelia, who's the person behind the bank robberies today? A robber who made his fortune by killing and robbing. Amelia said calmly. Those documents are a rich man's inheritance. Before he died, he gave his real estate to the bank for safekeeping. That person has his eyes on the inheritance. If I steal these documents, I can get the inheritance? Chen Zhao asked, confused. Some of the legal issues involved are very complicated. To put it simply, he only needs to destroy these documents, and then he can deny the bank the right to safekeep. Then, he can establish a relationship with one of the rich man's blood descendants and have the right to take over the inheritance. That rich man should have a law firm, right? There should be legal notarization for this kind of safekeeping, right? Yes, but these documents are key. Right now, the bank is in a lawsuit with the rich man's family. If these documents are lost, the bank will be in a passive position. That person's methods are extremely despicable. Kidnapping, threatening, killing, framing. As long as he can get the inheritance, he'll do anything, Amelia said. Amira said, by the way, you'd better be careful. After all, you've unwittingly gotten involved in this matter. Although you're not afraid, you still have your family. You'd better be wary of them. Chen Zhao thought about it. Find 2 bodyguards for Fei Lai, but Fei Lai definitely wouldn't accept it. Then he'd protect her secretly. After hanging up with Amira, Chen Zhao called Klaus. Klaus, do you know any powerful bodyguards? President, I know quite a few people, but they're definitely not good enough for you, Klaus said with a bitter smile. I want to prepare 2 bodyguards for Fei Lai to protect her secretly, Chen Zhao said. Oh, I see. I do have their numbers. How about I give you their numbers? Sure, give me their numbers. Klaus sent the numbers to Chen Zhao. After getting the numbers, Chen Zhao contacted the person. After saying Klaus's name, the person agreed to meet easily. The person wasn't in L.A. right now, but they'd rush over immediately. They should be able to reach L.A. tomorrow. Actually, even without bodyguards, Fei Lai might not be in danger. First of all, she definitely wouldn't be in danger at home. Second, Walter would follow Fei Lai every day. Moreover, Fei Lai's skills were quite good. Her body was already much stronger than normal people. She would also occasionally practice boxing with Chen Zhao. Of course, Chen Zhao wanted to be careful. There was nothing wrong with being careful. Chen Zhao thought about it and called Basin over. Basin was also a strong bodyguard. Besides Samuel, he was the smallest one in the bodyguard team. Even if he followed Fei Lai every day, he wouldn't attract attention. Chapter 1855. The next day, Chen Zhao arrived at the appointed restaurant. There were quite a lot of people in the restaurant, but there was only one table. The customers were all in suits and ties. There were both men and women. Hello, Chen Zhao asked first. Did Klaus introduce you? You're Mr. Chen, right? The leading man was in his 40s. We're from Blade Security Company. I'm Immerse, the person in charge of the company. They're all members of our team. How much do you charge? Chun Zhao asked. Mr. Chun, Immerse asked, do you want long-term employment or short-term service? Chun Zhao thought for a moment and asked, what's the long-term fee? What's the short-term fee? The short-term fee is based on the number of days. 10,000 per person per day. The shortest is 7 days. Long-term, at least half a year, 120,000 per month. Then long-term. It seems more cost-effective, Chun Zhao said. I want 2 female bodyguards. It's best if my wife doesn't know. You just have to protect her secretly and don't disturb her work. So what does your wife do? Coastal Rescue Team. Don't disturb her when she's working, but if someone suspicious approaches her, you have to take action. Immerse nodded. No problem. Let's sign for half a year first. If I'm satisfied with your service, I'll sign a longer contract, Chun Zhao said. Here's a check for 5 million. Immerse was also quite satisfied with Chun Zhao's client. He didn't haggle at all and accepted the price he offered very straightforwardly. A regular security guard's monthly salary wasn't even 10,000. His offer was sky high, but Chun Zhao didn't even blink. Mr. Chun, do you need security services? Me? Forget it. I don't need it. Chun Zhao smiled and shook his head. Fine. By the way, are you close to Klaus? When Klaus was in the army, I was his instructor, Graves replied. Chun Zhao felt that anyone who could be an instructor in the army was really strong. For example, Gaia's combat skills were top-notch. Immerse thought that Klaus was Chun Zhao's bodyguard. He knew Klaus's skills, so he didn't force him to introduce bodyguards. She's Avia, and she's Zoya. They're not any weaker than any of the men in our company. Immerse pointed at the 2 women in suits. Chun Zhao reached out. Avia, Zoya, hello. Hello, boss. The 2 girls shook hands with Chun Zhao. From today onwards, you 2 will listen to Mr. Chen's instructions. Yes, Mr. Graves. Mr. Chun, if there's nothing else, we'll be leaving first. Talk to Avia and Zoya. Gravis led the others away. Chun Zhao gestured for them to sit down. This is my wife's message. Take a look. You better not let her know of your existence. Just protect her in secret. Unless it's necessary, don't show yourself. Boss, if your wife works for the Coastal Rescue Team, she shouldn't be in any danger during the day. At least, she won't be attacked directly. The main problem is when she's on her way to and from work, Avia said. Can you install a tracker on your wife? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded. If you think it's necessary, then do it. How you do it will depend on your abilities. I won't do it myself. Of course. It's our job. Frank was depressed because he'd been in charge of feeding Raymond for the past 2 days. After 2 days of contact, Frank wasn't afraid of Raymond anymore. But Raymond was really vengeful. He would tease him every time he came. For example, yesterday, Frank drove a truck to deliver 2 live cows. He led the cows to the top of the mountain. Before he could rest, a 6-meter-long crocodile appeared. Frank was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He fired a few shots but didn't kill the crocodile. Instead, it became even more ferocious. Just as Frank was about to turn and run, Raymond appeared and bit the scary crocodile to death. After that, Frank realized that Raymond had driven the crocodile here. Frank was furious, but he couldn't do anything. Who asked him to offend Raymond? There are crocodiles. Why they have to eat beef? Frank complained as he led the 2 cows up the mountain. Moo! Just then, the 2 cows that were being led suddenly became restless. Frank let go of the reins, and Raymond appeared. He bit one of the cows with his bloody mouth. The cow, weighing more than 1,000 kilograms, was bitten by Raymond. No matter how many times Frank saw it, he was still shocked. Raymond's way of eating was too violent. The other cow wanted to run, but Raymond swept his tail and knocked it out. Raymond, today's food is here, Frank called. I'm leaving. Frank wasn't interested in watching Raymond eat. Just then, a few voices came from the mountain path. Before Frank could make a sound, Raymond picked him up and slipped into the bushes like a wisp of smoke. The man and Snake hid in the bushes and watched the people coming from the mountain path. They were just kids. They had probably just entered high school. Frank felt Raymond's tail loosen. Then, Raymond whipped Frank's butt. Frank stumbled and fell out of the bushes. Ah! The kids were startled when they saw Frank suddenly come out of the bushes. What are you doing here? This is private property. Frank yelled and touched his buttocks. You think it's private property? Look at how sneaky you are. You don't look like a good person. I'll call the police. A girl pointed at Frank. She wasn't afraid of the burly Frank at all. Frank's face turned red. What do you mean I don't look like a good person? I'm doing this for your own good. These children were obviously here to sightsee. They didn't know where they heard that there was a lake on the mountain, so they came here. Call the police? Okay, call the police. Frank suddenly thought that if the police came and found out what Raymond said, it would be troublesome. Don't mind him. Look, there really is a lake. The lake here is so beautiful. The group of kids rushed towards the lake. But after a few steps, they saw the corpse of a crocodile. Ah, crocodile, crocodile. Frank slowly walked over. There are crocodiles here. If you don't want to feed them, get lost. The children immediately hesitated. They were indeed frightened by the crocodiles, but they didn't want to leave. Chapter 1856. Frank crossed his arms over his chest and looked at the group of brats with a smile. The leader gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go. This is a mountain, and the crocodiles can't come up here. Most likely, someone put a crocodile here. Since it's dead, there must be no more crocodiles." The kid's guess was reasonable. Normally, crocodiles wouldn't live at high altitudes. There was a water source, and there wasn't much food. Crocodiles appearing here could only be released on purpose. But limited by food, even if a few crocodiles were released, very few could survive. Frank sneered. There are a lot of crocodiles here. We won't believe you. You're scaring us on purpose. Yeah, why should we believe you? The kids felt that Frank was scaring them on purpose. Since you want to die, I can only call the police, Frank said. There really were a lot of crocodiles here. Frank wanted to see them embarrass themselves, but it was a matter of life and death. If he couldn't persuade them, he could only call the police. Hearing Frank's words, the kids were even more certain of their guess. Let's go. Ignore him. The kids excitedly ran to the lake. The kids were wearing swimsuits under their jackets. They took off their jackets and jumped into the water. Frank was anxious. He ran to the lake and dialed the police's number. This wasn't a joke. If something happened here and someone died, especially a group of minors, not only would he be in trouble, but even Stephen would be in trouble. Damn, there's no signal here. I should get a satellite phone. Frank was a bit angry. Hurry up. There really are crocodiles here, Frank said anxiously. But the kids were having fun. They didn't care about Frank's advice at all. The water quality here is so good. Yeah, it's so comfortable. It was a beautiful place with verdant hills and clear waters. It was a paradise. Of course, the water quality was good. If a creature lived here for a long time, it might develop intelligence. Don't swim any deeper. Come back quickly. Frank saw the group of children swimming deeper into the water. They didn't care about his warning at all. Frank became even more anxious. At this moment, a scream suddenly came from the lake. Crocodile! Crocodile! A girl screamed. The scariest thing was that the crocodiles that appeared happened to be swimming in the direction they were heading. It directly blocked their way. Oh no! Frank became more and more anxious. He took out his gun and aimed at the crocodiles. However, the caliber and power of the pistol in his hand were very small. After all, it was impossible for him to carry a powerful weapon. Saltwater crocodiles were known for their thick skin and thick flesh. Small caliber pistols can hardly inflict fatal damage on them. The water also weakened the impact of the bullet's trajectory. It was harder for Frank's gun to do damage to them, unless, of course, he could hit their exposed heads. However, this was extremely difficult. Frank tried to fire, but the bullet hit the water and missed. Frank fired again, and a crocodile sank. However, the bullet did not hit the crocodile's head, but its body. At this time, another group of crocodiles surrounded the children from another direction. Frank's face was pale. He was at a loss. He could almost foresee that once the two groups of crocodiles surrounded the children, it would be a bloody feast of slaughter. At this moment, the grass moved, followed by a splashing sound. Raymond! Raymond is here! Frank saw Raymond's body slide into the lake. Then, the lake began to churn. A crocodile floated to the surface with its belly up. Frank gulped. Then a second crocodile, a third. Quick, here. Swim this way. Frank shouted. The children also saw the dead crocodiles. They didn't have time to think about why the crocodiles suddenly died. However, they still swam in this direction. They weren't too far from the shore. Soon, they swam past the dead crocodiles. Frank helped them to the shore one by one. The children were all terrified. The lake was still churning. The crocodiles floated to the surface with their bellies up. By now, they had calmed down. Their faces were full of doubt. Something in the water is killing those crocodiles. Yeah. The children looked at Frank. He must be in the know. He knows what's in the water. Soon, there were more than a dozen crocodiles' bodies on the surface. A crocodile's body was washed to the shore. Don't go over, Frank ordered. That crocodile might not be completely dead. However, these children were extremely daring. They ignored Frank's obstruction and went to flip the crocodile's body. The 4-meter-long crocodile needed the children to work together to flip it over. They found that the crocodile's neck had been bitten by something. Obviously, this thing was huge. At least its mouth could directly bite the crocodile's neck. And it was very powerful. This 4-meter-long crocodile's skin could almost block small-caliber bullets. But it was bitten to a bloody pulp. The crocodile's neck was completely broken. And that thing's purpose wasn't to eat, but to kill. Sir, what's in the water? Frank looked at the children. After hesitating for a while, he finally said in a low voice, "Don't you know? There's a legend about the monster in this water. In the past 10 years, more than a dozen people disappeared here. Later, a rich man bought this forest and wanted to build a manor here. As a result, several people died as soon as the project started. The rich man had no choice but to raise crocodiles here, hoping to use them to kill the monster in the water. As a result, the number of crocodiles increased, and that thing began to eat crocodiles." The children shivered. Frank continued, "You're lucky. At least that thing prefers the taste of crocodiles, not you. What about you? Who are you?" "I'm hired by the owner of this forest to guard this area and make sure that no one comes here to take risks. Did you see the truck parked at the foot of the mountain?" The children nodded. Frank pretended to be mysterious. "It's used to transport cattle and sheep. It's specially used to feed that thing, in case it's hungry and attacks people who come here by mistake." Chapter 1857. The kids' faces turned pale with fear. Just then, the lake started churning again. After a while, a giant crocodile that was nearly 7 meters long floated up. Blood flowed out of the lake. Everyone's expression was unnatural. Even Frank was a little shocked. Of course, he was one of the lucky ones. After all, he had seen Raymond's true form. That was why he knew Raymond was terrifying. But that didn't stop him from being shocked. The rest of the children were also frightened. "You'd better leave." "I'm leaving too. Once the monster in the water changes its appetite, we'll probably become its target," Frank said and turned to leave. The kids didn't dare to stay any longer and hurriedly followed Frank. Seeing this scene, Frank finally let out a sigh of relief. If the kids didn't want to leave, it would be really troublesome. Then he would inform Stephen and let him handle it. It was true that any means of invading someone else's territory was allowed. But Stephen was a public figure, so he couldn't be reckless. As long as it was a stable society, minors would be protected as much as possible. Even if a minor made a mistake, public opinion would often side with the minor. "Jess, do you believe what he said? Whether he's telling the truth or not, at least there's a terrifying creature in the water," Jess said and looked meaningfully at his companions. "Linan, you don't believe him?" "No, I believe him," Linan said. Linan said, "Have you ever thought that if we can film a monster, then we'll be rich? Our video will cause a sensation, and we'll all become celebrities. But that monster eats people." Jess was a bit scared. After all, that thing could even kill crocodiles in groups. It would probably be very easy to deal with them. As for the Americans, they have been deeply affected by the monster movies. They were all a bit scared. Would it cause more trouble? "It's okay. That person said he comes here often. As long as he brings cows and sheep, he won't be attacked by the monster. It means that the monster doesn't have to eat people. It's fine as long as there's other food. Please, it's impossible for us to afford a cow. Not even a sheep, Wang Yao said. Let's pool our money. Maybe we can. How much does a sheep cost? It's only $100 or so. After Li Nan's fear faded, he began to feel a little excited. Think about it. If we can film a real monster, as long as the video on Twitter has more than 10 million views, we can get $100,000. I won't participate. That's a real monster, a girl said firmly. I don't want to take the risk. I'm not joining either. The two girls in the small group expressed their stance. None of them wanted to get into trouble. The other two boys hesitated for a moment and finally chose to withdraw. Only Jesse was hesitant. He was tempted. Jess was the talk of the town in school. He loved to be in the limelight. He was also the one who led the fight against Frank. Li Nan, on the other hand, came from a poor family. His record in school is very poor. What he wanted was not to be in the limelight, but to make money. What if we don't find the monster, but the crocodiles find us? Jay said hesitantly. Those crocodiles aren't worth much. It's fine as long as we don't go near the water source. Crocodiles can't run as fast as us on land. Are you sure the monster won't eat us like snacks if we find it? We can disguise ourselves. Monsters are monsters after all. It'll be fine. I can get a gun, Li Nan said. My dad has a gun. Please don't. Jay's was calmer. Your gun can't even kill crocodiles, let alone that monster. Dadaira was building a castle on the beach with Jerlin, Mara, and Sindora. Chun Zhao realized that Dadaira was really calm and reserved. She was the model daughter of a rich family. Chun Zhao didn't dislike Dadaira. He just hoped that she could be more open-minded. Dadaira wasn't like other kids who like to make a fuss or be gluttonous or cry. Even Portia would throw a bit of tantrum, but Dadaira wouldn't. Dadaira didn't cry at all. Instead, she helped Chun Zhao and Fei Lai take care of the kids. Of course, Chun Zhao could still see some of Dadaira's immature behavior. For example, when they were shopping, Dadaira wanted to buy something. She would look at those things carelessly, but when Chun Zhao looked at her, she would avoid it and pretend to be careless. Chun Zhao was very troubled. Lying on the chair, Chun Zhao looked at Dadaira. After thinking for a while, Chun Zhao took out his phone and called Nawat Singh. Nawat, I want to ask you something. Chun, what do you want to ask? I think Dadaira is too introverted. It's even a bit abnormal. A child from a normal family wouldn't be so introverted. Whether it was in the East or the West, the current society gave children too many opportunities to interact with the outside world. Therefore, many of the children's characteristics were nurtured. Chun Zhao was worried that Dadaira had some mental illness, even depression. Depression was a very scary mental illness. Of course, it wasn't scary for others. Depression didn't cause damage or harm to others. It would harm oneself. Some patients with depression had some symptoms when they were young. Parents didn't pay attention to it, causing the illness to worsen. In the end, they would walk a path of no return. This wasn't what Chun Zhao wanted to see. He didn't know how to treat depression either. So, Chun Zhao wanted to take Dadaira to see a psychologist. However, Chun Zhao was also worried that taking Didi to see a psychiatrist would cause more serious psychological trauma. Chun Zhao planned to ask Nawat Singh about it first. Dadaira, her background isn't good, Nawat said. Her parents died in an accident when she was very young, and she was fostered at her uncle and aunt's house. I heard that her uncle and aunt didn't treat her well and even beat her, Nawat Singh said. Nawat paused. Dadaira's worried that she'll be abandoned. Okay, got it. Hearing this, Chun Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. It was a trauma, not a mental illness. Mental trauma wasn't good either, but at least it could heal her trauma. If it was a mental illness, it would be troublesome. Chun Zhao stared at Dadaira. After a while, he called Fei Lai. Chapter 1858. In the evening, Fei Lai returned. She also brought back a huge gift box. Didi, come and help. Hearing Fei Lai's call, Didi immediately ran over to help Fei Lai carry the gift box. Didi wanted to ask what was in the box several times, but she resisted the urge and did not speak. The box was very heavy, at least dozens of kilograms. All the children gathered around, looking curiously at the square gift box that was almost as tall as a person. Mom! Little Larissa ran to Phalai unsteadily. Little Larissa could understand the words mom and sister now, but it was still unclear. Open it, little Larissa shouted, pointing at the big gift box. Phalai turned to Didi. Didi, do you want to know what's inside? Didi hesitated for a moment and then nodded. Yes, it's for you. Open it, Phalai said. Huh? For me? Why? Where are my siblings? They don't have any, Phalai said. It's for you, because you're the most obedient child. Didi stared at Phalai in a daze. Biting her lower lip, she still hesitated. Phalai patted Didi's shoulder. Go ahead. Didi finally went up and undid the knots on the box. Instantly, the box opened with a clatter. Inside was an exquisite boat model, a yacht model. Didi La, this yacht is the model of your uncle's customized yacht, and your uncle and I have decided to name it after you. The warrior Didi La, the boat model, had been taken from Seagate. Chun Zhao had called Phalai earlier to ask her to take the yacht model. Huh? Didi was caught off guard. She wasn't a boat model enthusiast, but the yacht model before her really made her eyes light up. She liked the unique design and exquisite workmanship from the bottom of her heart. The other children also looked at the model enviously. Mom, I want it too. I want it too. Little Jerlin tugged at Phalai's pants. Little Jerlin, if you want it, you have to be as obedient as Sister Didi. It depends on your performance, Phalai said. Jerlin will be obedient. Jerlin clenched her little fists as if she had made up her mind. Chun Zhao walked up and touched Didi's head. Didi, I'll bring the model to your room. Didi bit her lower lip. She wasn't good at expressing her feelings. Her eyes were filled with touched and happy tears. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you, Uncle. Chun Zhao carefully brought the model to Didi's room. Dinner was held in the front yard. The inferior demons placed the dishes on the long table. Didi La, what else do you want besides the ship model and the naming of the new yacht? No, Didi said. I don't want anything else. Of course. Think about it. Phalai said domineeringly. What do you want the most? Didi said. Didi, Chun said. Didi, Chun dieted. Chun, and Didi said. Chun said. Didi, Chun, and Didi. Chun Zhao and Phalai were both stunned. They didn't expect Didi to make such a request. Chun, can you do it? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded. But I need to make some preparations. Chun Zhao stood up. You guys eat first. Chun Zhao didn't even want to go around the world. But DDRA had this wish. Chun Zhao naturally had to fulfill her wish. Chun Zhao needed to prepare equipment that could resist high temperatures and strong winds for Didi. Chun Zhao called Jalik first. Usually, Ruan Faisai was the most suitable person for this. But Ruan wasn't here, so Chun Zhao could only ask Jalik. Chun Zhao told Jalik about his request and intentions. Jalik accepted the request without hesitation. The request itself wasn't difficult. The main thing was the silver dragon skin. So, the request was simple. Of course, Chun Zhao also wanted a beautiful appearance. Chun Zhao wanted a set of equipment similar to superheroes. It didn't need any special functions. Gutkura and Donya Tianchi were in charge of the outer shell. They finished it quickly. Then Jalik was in charge of further processing, covering the armor with the silver dragon skin. 2 hours later, Chun Zhao brought Didi to the headquarters. Didi, put this on. See if it fits. Chun Zhao picked up the helmet and put it on Didi. After putting on the helmet and the equipment, Didi's entire aura changed. She looked like a valiant Valkyrie. There was also a red cape on the back of the equipment. Of course, apart from being able to resist pressure and heat, the cape didn't have any other uses. The entire equipment was sealed. There were only a few ventilation holes on the back of the helmet. Didi, how do you feel? Chun Zhao was quite satisfied with Didi's appearance. Not bad. Pretty comfortable, Didi said. Uncle, what's this for? To go around the world, Chun Zhao said. Are you ready? Now? Of course, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. At the same time, Chun Zhao appeared in his strongest form. Jalik and the others also took a few steps back. Chun Zhao reached out. Come, sit on my arm. Didi hesitated, but he still sat on Chun Zhao's arm. Chun Zhao slowly rose into the air. If you feel uncomfortable, tell me immediately. Oh, got it. Chun Zhao didn't go at top speed right away. Instead, he slowly sped up. If the acceleration was too fast, Didi wouldn't be able to handle it. How do you feel now? Not bad, Didi said. Uncle, can you go faster? Yes, I'll speed up. Okay. Chun Zhao had calculated. With his speed, if he went at full speed, he could circle the Earth in less than 3 hours. The Earth's circumference was around 40,000 kilometers. Chun Zhao's top speed could reach Mach 15. However, Chun Zhao considered stopping at a few places and letting Didi play for a while. So, the estimated time for this trip was around 10 hours. Soon, Chun Zhao reached his top speed. Although Chun Zhao had brought Didi, he felt that his speed wasn't any slower than the last time. In fact, it was even faster. After all, last time, the runway was short and he didn't have enough acceleration. Now, Chun Zhao had enough time to accelerate, so he estimated that his speed could surpass Mach 16. Chapter 1859. Didi, how do you feel now? Chun Zhao asked. Do you feel uncomfortable? No, I feel good. Didi looked at the vast sea, which was also rapidly retreating. Just then, 2 fighter jets appeared in front of them. With Chun Zhao's current speed, he must have been discovered by the satellites. Plus, the Americans must have recognized that Chun Zhao was the one who destroyed Nightingale. So, they didn't hold back this time and sent 2 fighter jets. The 2 fighter jets had appeared nearby. They must have taken off from an aircraft carrier. There should be a fleet nearby. Chun Zhao didn't want to fight with them. After all, he had Didi with him. Didi, let's go into the ocean now. Chun Zhao immediately lowered his altitude. Then, he split the surface and dove into the ocean. Chun Zhao couldn't dive into the ocean like usual. After all, if he charged into the ocean at such a high speed, the huge inertia would break Didi's limbs. So, Chun Zhao entered the ocean in a gentle way. Chun Zhao controlled the seawater and traveled through it. After traveling for more than 10 minutes, he reappeared on the surface of the ocean. We're about to reach the Hawaiian Islands, Chun Zhao reminded. Let's go take some pictures there. Didi had never been to Hawaii before. He was quite excited now. But it's night now, Chun Zhao said. Hawaii is famous for its sunny beaches, so there's nothing fun here. My whole family will come again next time. I understand, Didi replied in a considerate manner. Right now, the Hawaiian beach was silent. Didi picked up a shell. Uncle, help me put away. Chun Zhao looked at the shell. There was nothing special about it. However, he still put the shell away. Next stop, Mount Fuji, Chun Zhao said. Passenger, Miss Didi, please get ready. The flight is about to depart. Whoosh! Instantly, Chun Zhao set off again, heading straight for Mount Fuji. Didi wanted to go around the world. But if it was just going around, it would be meaningless. Chun Zhao wanted to go to some landmarks or scenic spots. Hawaii was about 6,000 kilometers away from Japan. In less than 20 minutes, Chun Zhao brought Didi to the sky above Mount Fuji. This is Japan's Mount Fuji. Do you see that forest? That's the Aoki Plains Forest Sea. That barren area was left behind after a great battle between me and a supreme demon. Didi looked at Mount Fuji in amazement. He also looked at the forest that Chun Zhao was pointing at. Will it be cold? No, I'm fine. At this moment, a red light pierced through the air. Chun Zhao's eyes narrowed. It was none other than the 9-tailed fox, Tamamo no Mae. Soon, Tamamo no Mae arrived before Chun Zhao. Although Tamamo no Mae was in human form, the 9 tails on her back were very obvious. Chun Zhao, are you here to fight me? Tamamo no Mae's lips curled up in a smile. She's the peerless great Yao that fought against me. Chun Zhao glanced at Tamamo no Mae. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to travel the world with my daughter. Tamamo no Mae stared at Chun Zhao, as if trying to determine if he was telling the truth. However, Chun Zhao and Didi did not linger here. They went straight to their next destination. Tamamo no Mae looked at Chun Zhao's departing figure and cursed. You run fast. Although she was unhappy that Chun Zhao came and left in such a hurry, she really could not do anything about his speed. In the blink of an eye, Chun Zhao had left Japan. According to the normal route, Chun Zhao's next stop should be Huaxia. But after careful consideration, Chun Zhao gave up on this idea. If Chun Zhao entered Huaxia in this state, neither the military nor the spiritual world would be happy. Chun Zhao could do whatever he wanted abroad, but he couldn't do the same in Huaxia. So, Chun Zhao decided to avoid Huaxia in the end. He followed the East Sea, passed the Xisha and Xisha Islands, and entered Vietnam. Just then, Chun Zhao suddenly realized that there seemed to be a battle below. It wasn't a battle between normal people. It was a battle between the spiritual world. In Chun Zhao's original plan, Vietnam was not their stop. Chun Zhao planned to pass through Vietnam and enter Cambodia to see Angkor Wat. But the battle below still attracted Chun Zhao's attention. There was a muddy river below. It should be a tributary of the Mekong River. On the river, there were a dozen boats of various sizes and hundreds of spiritualists. Looking down from the sky, Chun Zhao could clearly see something swimming under the water. It was very large and long, at least 70 to 80 meters long. Chun Zhao suddenly thought of the blood-red mission, Mekong River Monster. That thing suddenly emerged from the surface of the water and then directly knocked over a ship on the water. The people on the boat all fell into the water. Then the thing started eating. Those who fell into the water were all spiritualists. They weren't strong or weak, but in the water, they were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Chun Zhao could clearly see that it wasn't a dragon at all. It was more like a huge, sick eel. Chun Zhao could feel that this super eel had a very thick, demonic aura. It seemed to be a powerful demon. Moreover, Chun Zhao could feel a strong electrical energy from it. "No, we can't continue fighting on the water," an Asian man shouted. "This is the monster's home field. We have to find a way to lure it to land or shallow water." Boom! Just then, there was an earth-shattering sound. A bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Another boat was split in half. The people on the boat were turned into charcoal. "Damn, this monster can't be defeated. Send a signal to the other boats to retreat. We can't continue like this. If this continues, we'll all be wiped out." Is there no way at all? It's possible on land, but it's impossible on the water. Hu Yixian shook his head. Fine. The people on the boat were more complicated. There were blonde foreigners, but most of them were Asian. The consecutive losses made them lose their will to fight. The boat started to reach the shore, but the underwater attacks continued. Lightning also fell from the sky every now and then. After arriving at the shore, everyone scrambled to get ashore. As soon as Hu Yixian got off the boat, she saw two people standing on the shore. One was a huge giant. It was clearly a strengthening spell. The other was wearing strange equipment and a helmet. She couldn't see her face clearly. Judging from her figure, she should be a young girl. Weren't these two from this team? Chapter 1860. Friend, you are? Hu Yixian was the leader of the team, but he didn't know these two. Therefore, he cupped his fists and greeted them. However, he guessed that these two people in front of him were most likely here to participate in the Scarlet Mission. Just then, the river started churning again. The huge figure of the water monster was faintly discernible. It looked like it was going to rush ashore. Oh no, the water monster is close to the shore. Move back. Alarmed, Hu Yixian hurriedly told his companions to move back. Only Chun Zhao and Dadaira stood still. Dadaira, wait here. I'll be right back. Okay. Dadaira nodded. When Hu Yixian retreated, he looked back at Chun Zhao and Dadaira. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and retreat. Hu Yixian waved her hands and feet and shouted. However, he saw that the person didn't seem to realize the danger. He continued walking toward the river. By then, the water monster had reached the shore and poked its huge head out of the water. The water monster's body released a high-energy electric current. Dark clouds filled the sky. Affected by the water monster, they kept releasing electricity. Chun Zhao was huge, but compared to the water monster, he was like an ant compared to an elephant. Hu Yixian gasped. This was his first time seeing the water monster's true appearance. The others were the same. The water monster was scarier than they'd imagined. A power that could cause a celestial phenomenon was absolutely powerful no matter where it was. Chun Zhao looked at the water monster. This big eel should be half a step into the enchanting realm. However, it was limited by the water. If it left the water, its power would be greatly reduced. But even so, its strength wasn't something that those people could match. The water monster pounced at Chun Zhao, its huge mouth going for his head. Chun Zhao punched the monster's head from below. Bang! Half of the monster's head was smashed. Everyone's jaws dropped as they stared at Chun Zhao in shock. Instant kill? That terrifying water monster had been instantly killed by this person. Just when everyone was in disbelief, the water monster suddenly moved again. The water monster suddenly moved again, and then its exposed body suddenly shrunk back into the water. At the same time, the damaged part of its head began to heal rapidly. Chun Zhao raised an eyebrow. This water monster's healing ability was so strong. He was not much weaker than Tamamo no Mei. Half of his head had been smashed off, yet he was still alive. Chun Zhao jumped into the water. In an instant, the river began to churn violently, creating huge waves that reached the sky. Lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled in the sky, and thunder fell continuously. Everyone looked at the raging waves of the river in horror. Rumble. None of them had ever seen a battle of this level. Even though they had more than 10 ships and more than 100 spiritualists working together previously, it was still impossible for them to survive. The water monster also didn't display its true strength. In the water, Chun Zhao kept beating up the water monster. The water monster was very similar to Chun Zhao. He possessed the attributes of water and lightning, and at the same time, he had a strong physical body. It was the same for Chun Zhao, but his control over water wasn't as good as the water monster's, while lightning was stronger. Therefore, they were basically equal in these two aspects. However, Chun Zhao's level was higher than the water monster. His physical strength far surpassed that of the water monster. The water monster felt it too, so it started to run away. Chun Zhao couldn't deal a fatal blow to the water monster. The strongest thing about the water monster was its self-healing ability. It was almost at Tamamo no Mei's level. Chun Zhao took out the black trident. The water monster instantly bristled and twisted its body even harder. It felt the threat of the black trident. It was a fatal threat. Chun Zhao stabbed the trident into the water monster's head. The moment the black trident pierced the monster's head, the terrifying power started killing the monster's cells. Chun Zhao twisted the black trident in his hand, and the monster's head was blown apart. In the murky water, Chun Zhao sensed two familiar energy sources. Chun Zhao fished in the water. Two internal cores that radiated the power of water and lightning fell into his hands. The two cores were similar to old turtles. However, the difference between the two was billions of times. Nevertheless, the two cores were useless to Chun Zhao. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't want to waste them, so he put away the internal cores in the water monster's body. Hu Yixian and the others looked at the river. It continued to churn for half an hour. Suddenly, there was silence. Was the battle over? Everyone waited for the result. Who lost? Who won? Or was it a draw? Finally, a figure flew out of the river. A pillar of water exploded from the water. Everyone saw Chun Zhao's figure rise into the air and then land on them. Hu Yixian walked over in large strides. This time, he didn't put his hands together. Instead, he cupped his hands and bowed. "Sir, how is the water monster?" "Dead," Chun Zhao answered indifferently. Hearing Chun Zhao's fluent Chinese, Hu Yixian's heart jumped. He must be a spiritualist from China. "Sir, may I know your name?" Hu Yixian asked. To Hu Yixian, Chun Zhao was most likely a top master in China. Although Chun Zhao looked very young in the form of the mighty miracle god, Chun Zhao was still very young. But to Hu Yixian, Chun Zhao was most likely an old man. "No," Chun Zhao said indifferently. He turned to Didi. "Didi, sit on my arm. Let's go." Hu Yixian was stunned for a moment. Why did this old senior suddenly speak English? Didi sat on Chun Zhao's arm, and Chun Zhao shot into the air. Even the pressure from Chun Zhao's departure was unbearable. Who? Is he a spiritualist from China? So powerful, so scary, as expected of the most active supernatural region in the world. He's like a god. Who? Do you know where he's from? I don't know. That senior doesn't want to reveal his information. The remaining people were all amazed. That unbelievable power made them gasp in amazement. Unfortunately, Chen Zhao's unapproachable attitude made it impossible for them to befriend him. By now, Chen Zhao had reached the border of Vietnam. In the blink of an eye, he was in Cambodia. Chen Zhao paused for a moment to check his position and confirm the direction. Next is Angkor Wat. Didi, do you know Angkor Wat? No. Uncle, what's Angkor Wat? Angkor Wat was more like a Buddhist city than a temple. Angkor Wat was built by Suryavarman II in the 12th century and worshipped Vishnu. In Hinduism, Vishnu was the guardian of order among the three major gods. Buddhism itself was born from Hinduism. After it was introduced to China, it evolved into Zen to adapt to Chinese politics and customs. Chapter 1861. Chen Zhao deactivated his Titan form and had Didi put away his equipment. After all, this was a cultural heritage of mankind. He had to respect it. It was still nighttime in North America, but Cambodia was 12 hours ahead of North America. It was already noon. There were quite a lot of tourists here. Chen Zhao and Didi strolled around Angkor Wat like ordinary tourists. After staying in Angkor Wat for more than an hour, the two left again and went to the next place. They left Cambodia, crossed the Gulf of Thailand, entered the Myanmar Sea, and then passed the Bay of Bengal. Then they crossed India and entered the Arabian Sea. Chen Zhao and Didi did not stay in India. In Chen Zhao's impression, this was a dirty and messy country. More importantly, it was extremely unfriendly to women. They passed the Arabian Sea, entered the Gulf of Aden, entered the Red Sea, and then turned into Egypt. They had to go to the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Sphinx before coming to Egypt. This was the evidence left behind by the world's oldest civilization. Ancient Egypt and Egypt were not the same civilization. It was still morning in Egypt. They could barely see anyone. However, there were still Egyptian relics protection agencies here, so the two had to be more careful. After getting close to the Great Pyramid of Giza and taking pictures of the Sphinx, the two had breakfast in Cairo. Then they entered the Mediterranean Sea and crossed the European continent. Their next stop was England. Hey, Xian Li, where are you in England now? Uncle, we're in Edinburgh. Why do you ask? Are you in England too? Xian Li's voice sounded a little tired and sleepy. Not yet, but we'll be there soon. Okay, what time are you arriving? About 10 minutes later. What? Just then, Xian Li received a photo. Didi had sent it to her. 20 minutes later, with dark circles under her eyes, Xian Li watched Chen Zhao and Didi descend from the sky. Uncle, Didi, how come you're here? And you chose this time, too. Look at the time. It's already 6. Although it was already 6 o'clock in the morning, England was still quiet at the moment. We're traveling around the world, me and Didi. Sister Xinli, we have been to Hawaii, Mount Fuji in Japan, and then we went to Vietnam. We saw the water monster there. And then we went to Angkor Wat in Cambodia. All right, before we came to England, we also took pictures on the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Sphinx in Egypt. After that, we went to Cairo for breakfast. Xian Li's face was filled with shock. You're going to travel around the world just like that? Yeah. Chen Zhao nodded. Do you want to give up on your plan? I'll bring you along. Xian Li rolled her eyes. Uncle, all right. I'm just giving you an idea. I'm not forcing you. Shall I rouse them all? Asked Sherlock. There's no need. Xian Li wondered in her heart why she was the only one called up. When they reached a remote area, Chen Zhao and Didira stopped. Okay, we should go. Chen Zhao returned to his Jin form. Didi, we should go home. After all, this trip around the world was short, and it was mainly an impromptu idea. Along the way, they had skipped too many places worth stopping at. They left England and entered the North Atlantic Ocean. The target is in the North Atlantic Ocean. I repeat, the target is in the North Atlantic Ocean. What exactly is that thing? Is it China's secret weapon? Can't detect it. The target's main body is enveloped by a huge energy. Where is the Atlantic Fleet now? The Atlantic Fleet is currently at longitude 45. 5455, dimension 45. 66547. Approaching the target's route. Order the Atlantic Fleet to intercept the target. Permission to fire freely. Target is approaching the Atlantic Fleet. The target is hiding in the sea again. What exactly is that thing? It can move in both the sky and the sea. Lost track of the target. Chun Zhao was so annoyed by the American fleet. They were too nosy. But this also meant that the American defense was indeed strong. Chun Zhao had originally planned to land on the East Coast and then take a detour back to Los Angeles. But now it seemed that if he entered American territory like this, it would probably provoke the Americans. It was very likely to provoke the nerves of the Americans, who might directly hit him with a nuclear warhead. So, Chun Zhao decided to take a detour and enter the Gulf of Mexico. Then he passed through the Mexican border. After that, he entered the Pacific Ocean again. Then he moved in the sea and returned to Mingwe Villa in Los Angeles. Whoosh, I'm home. Chun Zhao let out a long sigh. Although this trip around the world was more daunting than dangerous, Chun Zhao still considered it. He should learn some methods to avoid radars or satellites. Otherwise, he would be caught by radars or satellites every time he moved at high speed. Plus, with the Americans' overbearing habits, he would be harassed every time. It was really hard to guard against them. Is it still night in Los Angeles? Didi looked at Mingwe Villa in the night. It's almost morning. Chun Zhao patted Didi's head. Go rest. Uncle, can you take me to travel around the world in the future? Of course. Chun Zhao looked at Didi seriously. Didi, I'm not the kind of person who knows how to talk to people, but I hope that you can truly accept me and fail I. What you're worried about won't happen. No matter what happens, we won't abandon you. Didi lowered his head and then looked up again. He silently reached out and hugged Chun Zhao. Can you let me go? I'm not good at dealing with situations like this. Chun Zhao said awkwardly, but Didi didn't let go. Fine, if you want to hug me, Chun Zhao said helplessly. Uncle, I'm hungry. You seem to have just had breakfast. I'm just hungry. The underlings are already working. See what's in the kitchen. Bring some meat too. Chun Zhao and Didi took some food and sat on the dragon's head, watching the sun rise from the horizon. The light was dazzling. Satisfaction was written all over Didi's face. I'm going to watch the sun rise every day. You eat so much. You need to exercise more. Uncle, I won't get fat just from eating. Every fat person thinks that, and then they become fat without realizing it. In the morning, Fei Lai woke up and saw Chun Zhao and Didi sitting on the dragon's head. Chun, Didi, did you finish your trip around the world? Of course, Annie. We went around the world, and we also went to a lot of places. Didi excitedly talked about the night's journey. Chapter 1862. Chun Zhao and Fei Lai hoped that their children would know how to make requests. They wouldn't think that it was already a great kindness to adopt you, but you still dare to make requests. A group of kids surrounded Didi, asking her about her trip around the world. Chun Zhao took out a few pieces of eel and barbecued them. Jerlin had been sleeping, but when she smelled the grilled eel, she immediately rushed out. Dad, I want to eat. Not just Jerlin, but all the kids were drooling. Wait, after all, Chun Zhao hadn't tried the food yet. He didn't know if it was harmful. So, Chun Zhao didn't dare to give it to the kids. Chun Zhao finished the grilled eel in a few bites. Jerlin burst into tears. Dad, you're so naughty. You didn't even give it to Jerlin. Chun Zhao looked at Jerlin as he ate the roasted eel. If you keep crying, there won't be any food. Look, brother and sister aren't crying. Even little Larissa isn't crying. Are you embarrassed to cry? Jerlin pouted and looked at Chun Zhao angrily. Dad, if you don't give it to me, I'll cry. Okay, there's more. There's a lot more. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with the eel, Chun Zhao took out more. He had to admit that the more powerful they were, the better the meat. Chun Zhao suspected that these powerful creatures were all strengthening their meat. Just then, Portia came and saw Chun Zhao barbecuing with the kids. Boss, it's only morning. You're already barbecuing? Come and help, Chun Zhao said. He stood up and gave Portia the grill spot. Boss, I'm your assistant, not your maid. Steven called me yesterday and said that you acted like a piece of shit during the audition. He's considering if he should recommend more movie roles for you. Portia was speechless. She sat before the grill and started barbecuing. Take care of them today. Dee Dee, help Portia look after the siblings, too. I'm going out for a bit. Okay, Uncle. Go do what you need. Do you need me to bring anything? Snacks. I want snacks. I want fries and Coke. I want cake. I have too many snacks at home. I can't buy any more. Chun Zhao went straight to the headquarters of the supernatural organization. After arriving at the headquarters, Chun Zhao went to find West. West, give his heroic spirit notebook to Wang Sieg. West flipped open the heroic spirit's notebook and saw the records. West was speechless. President, you went to Vietnam last night? I was passing by and happened to run into the Mekong River monster, Chun Zhao said, so I took care of it. West smiled bitterly. The difference in strength was just that big. No matter how hard the members of the association worked, they were still running around for every Scarlet mission, and he might not even be able to handle it. Every mission required a lot of preparation and screening. However, Chun Zhao had gone to Vietnam and completed a red mission. Guild Leader, although you've completed one Scarlet Quest, we won't change our plans for the other 2 Scarlet Quests, Aqua Rose said, shaking her head. Up to you. This Mekong River water monster mission will be a backup. West thought for a moment before nodding and putting away the heroic spirit notebook. West, put a new track for the ballistic testing device. It's too short. I use it to measure speed, but it's not good. The acceleration distance isn't enough. Okay, the association has money now. After completing the Nordic Giant mission, Wang Sieg had transferred some money to the association. I plan to renovate the headquarters. What do you think, President? Sure. Chun Zhao nodded. You decide. Then I'll contact your construction friend. Okay. Chun Zhao nodded. How about later? I'm planning to build a private airport too. I can ask him to build it together and save some money. There was a difference in the price of a project being constructed together and separately. Both Chun Zhao and the supernatural organization had a lot of money in their accounts. But Chun Zhao felt that he should save as much as he could. Okay, when do you plan on leaving for the next Scarlet Quest? About a week later. I'll have to let you take care of the headquarters again. Chun Zhao saw that the headquarters would only come once every few days. Aduz was mainly in charge of guarding it. Same rules. Call me if you need anything. Don't force yourself. Got it. By the way, President, do you know about the Battle of Holy Glory? Yes. Last time, Zhang Tianyi told me that he wanted you guys to participate and give you a few spots. I didn't take it. Why not? Stunned, West looked at Chun Zhao in confusion. Why would you take it? There's no reward. It's just a useless title of Holy Glory. It's not permanent either. It's only for 10 years. I can't think of any benefits. What a pity. This was supposed to be a chance for our people to interact with the world's top spiritualists. West wasn't trying to increase his fame. He had the same idea as Chun Zhao. They both wanted to keep a low profile. But now, he wasn't sure how big the difference was between the people of the association and the world's top spiritualists. So, if he had a chance to participate in this event, he would have a platform to interact with the top spiritualists. Having a platform to communicate with those top-notch spiritualists would also allow him to know what level they were at. In the North American region, the supernatural organization's power was already the top organization. But West also knew that there were even more powerful organizations and forces outside of North America. The strength of those organizations was not to be underestimated. Of course, the most powerful person in the supernatural organization was definitely Chun Zhao, the president. After all, Chun Zhao could already talk to the world's top 23rd generation Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi of Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect on equal footing. But the balance of power in the supernatural organization was out of balance. Chun Zhao was unbelievably powerful, but the organization didn't have the power to crush everything. Most of the time, they still needed Chun Zhao to support them. For example, when they went on a Scarlet mission, Chun Zhao's line was always to inform him if there was trouble. West and the members of the organization had always wanted to catch up to Chun Zhao, but the gap was getting bigger and bigger. Chun Zhao's power made them feel despair every time. Are there any tickets? I asked Zhang Tianyi too. Are there? He told me to scram. Chun Zhao shrugged helplessly. President, Ask Mr. Zhang if he can participate anonymously. Wes still hadn't given up on the idea of participating. Okay, I'll ask. Chapter 1863. After leaving the headquarters, Chun Zhao went to the supermarket. He wondered if he should ask Winip to open a supermarket near Mingyue Villa. Of course, this idea was basically impossible unless Chun Zhao was willing to pay for it. Mingyue Villa was too remote. It was more than 30 kilometers away from the city. There were only roads along the way. There were no other buildings. Very few people walked on the roads. The kids at home had asked him to buy snacks, but Chun Zhao had rejected them. Nevertheless, he still planned to buy some snacks. Of course, the little referred to hundreds of snacks and happy otaku water. Carbonated drinks were said to be unhealthy. However, children also needed a certain amount of sugar when they were growing. Children like to eat sweets because they contain a lot of sugar. Nutrition was a very complicated field of study. It was even more complicated than medicine. Moreover, children of different ages had different nutritional requirements. Of course, when Chun Zhao and Fei Lai were at home, they would barbecue and drink beer. As long as one didn't overeat, the so-called junk food and happy otaku water wouldn't harm a body. Chun Zhao pushed the shopping cart out of the supermarket. Suddenly, a scene appeared in Chun Zhao's shadow eye. Chun Zhao took a step back. The snacks on the cart exploded. Another sniper? Who was it this time? The other party's movements were very fast, and after a single strike, he didn't care whether he hit the target or not. He hid behind cover. Chun Zhao's shadow, I only saw an instant. He didn't even have time to identify his surroundings. However, from the bullet's trajectory, Chun Zhao could roughly confirm the direction. There were a few buildings in that direction that could be a sniper's temporary base. This was the first time Chun Zhao's shadow, I couldn't catch the enemy. Previously, Chun Zhao could even sense it from the International Space Station. But the shadow eye, which had always worked, actually met its Waterloo today. Of course, it wasn't a Waterloo. It was mainly because the enemy was well-trained. If the enemy stared at Chun Zhao for 3 more seconds, Chun Zhao would be able to catch them. He was ambushed, but he couldn't even catch the enemy. Chun Zhao was depressed. Chun Zhao stood there and waited for a long time. He hoped that the enemy would attack again, but he didn't see the enemy attack again. In the end, he could only leave in disappointment. He knows there's a sniper, but he's still standing there. Jax glanced at the rearview mirror. This guy is either crazy or stupid, one of Jax's men said. It could also be self-confidence, Jax said calmly. If it's a handgun at close range, it's possible to dodge it, but it's a sniper rifle at such a long distance. No one can dodge it after being aimed, the subordinate said disdainfully. Obviously, he didn't agree with Jax's words. Most handgun bullets were round, and their ballistic speed couldn't even reach the speed of sound. Therefore, at close range, a person with sharp reflexes and a certain level of strength would have a chance to avoid it. However, the ballistic speed of most sniper rifles could reach 2,000 meters per second, which was about 6 or 7 times the speed of sound. If an assassin aimed at him with a sniper rifle and failed to dodge before firing, the probability of being hit was more than 80%. As for the 20% that didn't hit their target, it wasn't because they were dodged, but because they were off target. That guy's senses are very sharp, Jax said. I just pretended to look at him casually, and his footsteps changed. I've been in this business for 3 years, but I've never seen anyone who can really see behind their backs. Jax's subordinate was a little arrogant. Just because you haven't doesn't mean there's no such thing. Even I don't have absolute confidence in winning against him, Jax said, somewhat relieved. Luckily, I didn't accept this mission. We should keep some distance from this guy. His conflict with Joseph has nothing to do with us. Knock, knock. Suddenly, there was a soft knock on the car window. Jax looked up and saw Chun Zhao standing outside the car. Jax's subordinate immediately pulled out his gun and pointed it at Chun Zhao. I heard your conversation just now. You're talking about me, right? The subordinate looked at Jax. Boss, what do we do? Jax's expression was unsettled. Had Chun Zhao heard their conversation? This meant that Chun Zhao had been standing outside the car for a while. But the two of them hadn't noticed at all. This kind of strength that silently appeared in the vicinity was too terrifying. If Chun Zhao had attacked just now, the two of them might not even know how they died. Mocha, put the gun down, Jax said. Jax rolled down the window, and Chun Zhao put his hands on the door. Did the attack just now have anything to do with you? No, it has nothing to do with us, Jax answered. Sir, we're just here to watch. Watch. Why should I believe you? Chun Zhao narrowed his eyes at Jax and Mocha. Who do you think you are? Mocha yelled. Our boss said it has nothing to do with us, so it has nothing to do with us. Jax waved his hand, signaling for Mocha to shut up. Sir, this really has nothing to do with us. Watching a show isn't fun. Since we're here, shouldn't we pay for the ticket? What do you want? Jax asked. Who attacked me? What's their relationship with you? How do you know? The person who attacked you was our employer, but we rejected him, so he found someone else. What's his name? Joseph. He's called Hyena in the industry. Why did you reject him? I don't think we're friends. Because you're rich, just like our previous employer. You're richer than him. We usually don't attack super rich people because it's too risky. Plus, you were able to defeat 6 armed men unscathed a few days ago. This means that you're not to be messed with. When the risk is disproportionate to the reward, I choose to reject you. You know about the bank robbery a few days ago? What's your relationship with that? The people you beat up were hired by me, so we're still enemies. No, at least I don't plan on being enemies with you. Please stop here. We don't have any conflict of interest. Okay, one last question. Where can I find your previous employer, Mr. Hyena Joseph? Beverly Hills. He has 2 mansions there, but I'm not sure. Chapter 1864. Jax's attitude had always been one of compromise. This made Mo.Ka very unhappy. He felt that Jax was too cowardly. A man should be tougher. There was no need for them to be so timid and even expose their employer's information. Anything else? I want more information. He might harm your family. Chun Zhao frowned at Jax's words. You really didn't participate? No. If we had participated, we wouldn't have appeared before you. Chun Zhao turned to leave. Just then, Mocha pointed her gun at him. This was a great opportunity. Jax was shocked. Originally, he was able to stay out of this matter. But Mo.Ka had raised her gun recklessly, and before Jax could react, it was too late. He fired at Chun Zhao's back. Chun Zhao tilted his head to avoid the bullet. Everything was so natural. Chun Zhao turned around and walked toward Monica and Jax. Monica and Jax panicked. Misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding. Jax tried to calm Chun Zhao down, but Mo.Ka made the wrong decision again. He fired directly at Chun Zhao. However, even though it was only a few meters away, it couldn't hit Chun Zhao at all. In the blink of an eye, Chun Zhao was before Mo.Ka. Mo.Ka turned pale with fright. He finally believed what Jax had said before. Some people's eyes were growing on their backs. Wait, sir, Peng. Chun Zhao pressed Monica's head down and smashed it against the window. Jax's hand went to the weapon at his hip. Chun Zhao pulled Monica out and pushed her toward Jax. Before Jax could take out his weapon, Mocha pounced on him and threw him to the ground. Chun Zhao stepped on Monica's back, making it impossible for Jax to get up. Sir, Mo.Ka is just young and impetuous. Chun Zhao increased his strength and Mocha screamed again. Young people are full of vigor. He shot me with a gun. Is this called being full of vigor? I can help you make an appointment with Joseph, Jax said. Only then did Chun Zhao let go. Jax was annoyed by Monica's disobedience. He could have stayed out of it. Right now, he could only intervene. He didn't want to be enemies with Chun Zhao. Likewise, he didn't like to be Joseph's enemy. He knew how terrifying Joseph was. That was the most despicable and vicious person he had ever known. There was no other. Of course, he also had his own armed forces. Other tycoons relied on their own influence to prevent others from coveting their wealth. However, Joseph had no influence, so he could only rely on his own equipment. Half of his money was used to arm his personal forces. He was like a warlord among the rich. In addition, he was involved in some of the businesses: drugs, firearms, people, and even organs. Therefore, he gathered a group of vicious criminals under his command. There were dozens of armed men living in his house all year round. Even his butler, servants, and chefs were wanted criminals. But now he had to make a choice. They were either on Chen Zhao's side or Joseph's. Of course, if he stood on Joseph's side, he would have to face Chen Zhao right now. Mo's rash actions just now had already caused them to lose the qualifications to be spectators. Jax, I'm not in Beverly Hills right now. I'm at my villa in the suburbs. A villa in the suburbs? How come I didn't know you had property in the suburbs? Huh, I just got it. The original owner is a good person. He only took $1 from me. Huh. Give me the address, Jack said. I have something to talk to you. Okay, I'll send you the address now. After hanging up, one of Joseph's subordinates said, Boss, Jax has been in contact with that person. Got it, Joseph said disapprovingly. Joseph said disapprovingly. Let our people prepare to welcome our guests. On the wall of the room, a man was hanging on the wall. In front of Joseph, there was a naked woman. However, this woman's arms and legs were broken, and she was lying on the table. She no longer had any reaction to Joseph's actions. Just at this time, Joseph suddenly let out a high-pitched voice, and his body trembled. Damn bitch, no reaction at all. Joseph kicked the woman, and she fell to the ground. Bring Abao and Gates here. One of his subordinates brought 2 hounds that were barking and baring their fangs to Joseph. My darling, she's your dinner. Joseph squatted down and touched the 2 dogs, then untied their collars. The woman who had no reaction suddenly screamed and struggled. But facing the 2 ferocious dogs, the woman with her limbs broken couldn't fight back at all. The 2 dogs' mouths were full of blood and flesh, and they tore at the poor woman crazily. The man hanging on the wall struggled with all his might. It clearly wasn't the first time the 2 dogs had bitten someone. They knew how to make the victim suffer even more. They didn't bite the woman's throat. The woman kept screaming, but she couldn't die. She was already a bloody mess. Joseph slapped his head and said with a face full of regret, Oh no, I shouldn't have let them eat here. I really like this carpet. Do you know how to clean this kind of knitted wool carpet? Forget it. Let's change the carpet. Joseph sighed. This carpet should be an Arab merchant's carpet. Just then, one of his subordinates came to Joseph. Boss, Jax is here. Oh, how many? 1 car, 3 people. Other than Jax and his subordinate, Mocha, there's 1 more person who's our target. 3 people? There aren't any other cars behind them? No. Let them in, Joseph said proudly. I didn't think that Jax would actually bring them to me, even though he said no. Soon, Jax, Mocha, and Chen Zhao were surrounded by Joseph's subordinates. A few people came over to search him. His phone was also taken away. Please keep my phone safe for me. Chen Zhao smiled at the person. The person looked at Chen Zhao with a cold smile. Jax and Mocha looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. They thought that Chen Zhao would call someone, but Chen Zhao had come alone. To them, this was no different from walking into a trap. They really didn't understand Chen Zhao's intentions. Did he think that he could solve all the problems by himself? The person who'd taken Chen Zhao's phone pushed him. Let's go. My boss is waiting for you. Don't let him wait too long. He doesn't have a good temper. Chapter 1865. Chen Zhao walked into the living room and saw a man hanging on the wall. There was also a woman who had been bitten into a bloody mess. Frowning, Chen Zhao walked up and kicked the 2 dogs away. He squatted down to check the woman. She was still breathing. She wasn't completely dead. Chen Zhao fed the woman a bottle of medicine. Joseph looked at Chen Zhao quietly, a faint smile on his face. Sir, this isn't the attitude a guest should have. Chen Zhao stood up again and looked at Joseph. You want to kill me? Don't make it sound so bad. I just want to borrow some money from you. Joseph said disapprovingly. Joseph said disapprovingly. If I really wanted to kill you, you would already be lying on the ground. With that, Joseph waved at his subordinate. The subordinate who'd taken Chen Zhao's phone took out a contract. Come, sign this document. Chen Zhao sat on the sofa and crossed his legs. He picked up the document and glanced at it. It was an IOU. It meant that Chen Zhao had borrowed $2 billion from Joseph. He was going to use all of his properties as collateral. How is it? Are you satisfied with the contract? It's not about whether I'm satisfied or not. It's about whether you have the ability to make me sign it. Chen Zhao smiled at Joseph. I heard you have a beautiful wife and 2 daughters, right? Joseph pointed at the man hanging on the wall. He rejected my request before, too. This is his wife. Chen Zhao looked at Joseph, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. I said that I need you to prove whether you have the ability to force me to sign this contract. Just then, the person who'd taken Chen Zhao's phone took out a gun and pointed it at the back of Chen Zhao's head. But the next moment, Chen Zhao turned around without any warning. Crack! The man's arm was broken. Ah! Chen Zhao took back his phone unhurriedly. Good thing my phone isn't broken. Someone, Joseph's bloated body hid behind the sofa with unimaginable agility. Numerous noises could be heard from outside. Chen Zhao looked at the lights in the room and then at the man hanging on the wall. He walked over and tore off the seal in the man's mouth. Your villa should have a butler system, right? Kill him. Kill him for me. The man roared. Give the butler an order to cut off the power to the entire villa. Cut off the power. The entire villa district's power supply was instantly shut down. Everything was plunged into darkness. Even the starlight in the night had disappeared. Then, a scream came from outside the door. Duh. Boom, boom. Everyone felt as if they had fallen into a battlefield. Gunshots and explosions filled his ears. Of course, there were also the inevitable screams. At this moment, Jax and Mocha both found a place to hide. They had no idea what was going on. It was unbelievably dark here. There was no light except the flash of the gun and the explosion. Not even the fire was lit. This kind of dark environment was really unsettling. Finally, the gunfire stopped. The entire villa district was silent, as if it was a silent hell. Everyone held their breath. How's the situation? Who lost? Who won? Just then, Chen Zhao's voice sounded in the darkness. You can turn the lights back on. Connect the power. When the lights came on, everyone felt that their eyes weren't used to it. A few seconds later, they opened their eyes again. But all they saw was a sea of blood. The living room was filled with corpses. All the corpses were piled up in the living room. More than 100 corpses were piled up into a small mountain. Blood had covered the entire living room. The scene sent chills down one's spine. This was a true hell of flesh and blood. Jax and Mocha were both elites among mercenaries. But now, they were truly afraid. What kind of monster was this? Chen Zhao stood beside the pile of corpses. His body was covered in blood, and his hands were in his pockets. This guy was an even more terrifying demon than Joseph. Joseph's evil couldn't compare to this man at all. Mocha felt her scalp go numb. How did she have the courage to shoot him? How could she do something so stupid? Chen Zhao walked over and pulled the man down, loosening the rope around his wrist. The man immediately wanted to pounce on Joseph. But Chen Zhao stopped him. With a meaningful smile, Chen Zhao said, There's still a long time tonight. Don't you want to have some fun? Joseph's face was pale and his limbs were trembling. Chen Zhao walked over to the woman and put her on the sofa. Your wife isn't dead yet, Chen Zhao said. Go get a basin of water. If she's lucky, she might survive. The man knelt before his wife and started crying loudly. Maiev, I'm sorry. It's my incompetence that hurt you. The woman called Maiev's eyes were unfocused. Her body and mind were both broken. Chen Zhao turned his head and glanced at Jax. Mr. Jax, when I'm treating this lady, I hope some people can keep quiet and not disturb me. Jax took a deep breath. Happy to help, Mr. Chen. Lady, it might be very painful. Crack. Chen Zhao straightened Maiev's arm. Maiev arched her body. But now, she didn't make sound. Chen Zhao sensed that Maiev's aura had weakened. He sent a bit of celestial power to protect her heart. Terrified, Joseph gradually calmed down and secretly took out a gun from his back. Bang! Jax blew at the smoke from the muzzle. Sorry to disturb you, Jax said. Mocha, go get some tape and seal Mr. Joseph. Chen Zhao didn't get distracted. He continued treating Maiev. Jax was very rational. He didn't have Mocha's impulsiveness, especially after the massacre. Sir, Maiev, does she still have hope? The environment here is simple. I can keep her alive for now, but her injuries need to be changed. I'll call the hospital now. No, the hospital can't save her, Chun Zhao said. Then what? Chun Zhao lowered his voice. A secret place, but you can't reveal it. You and your wife can go there temporarily, but I don't want you to tell anyone about it. Do you understand? I understand. I understand. I'll agree to any of your requests. You can take my assets too. No need. I'm not interested in your assets. Chapter 1866. Darling, I might not be able to go back tonight. Chun Zhao called Fei Lai first. A bug is planning to use you and the child to threaten me. I'm killing it now. Okay, wash up when you come back. I don't want you to bring the bugs smell home. I'm busy. I'll hang up now. Chun Zhao hung up. Everyone was thinking about Chun Zhao's wife. Chun Zhao called Klaus again. Klaus, I'll send you the address. Drive the helicopter over and need a stretcher. Someone's heavily injured and needs to be taken to HQ. Also, have Jolig prepare a container. Got it, President. Chun Zhao put away the phone and stood up again. Now, we can deal with our main guest today. Chun Zhao looked at Joseph. Don't be rash. Do you know how powerful I am? Do you think I can't do anything to you just because you killed a few of my people? Chun Zhao ignored Joseph's threat. He turned to the man beside him. What do you think about steaming? No, that's too easy on him. Then skin him. I still can't vent my anger. How about we bring him back alive? I have many options for you to choose from. There's bound to be one that suits you. Of course, I also want him to die in pain. After all, no one has ever dared to use my family to threaten me. The man thought for a moment and finally nodded heavily. He controlled the beast in his heart. He was afraid that he would suddenly lose control and kill this demon. A while later, the helicopter arrived. Klaus arrived with the lightning squad. When Klaus entered, he immediately covered his nose. President, yes, leave 2 people here to deal with this. 2 more people come and carry this woman to the helicopter. These 2 look like mercenaries. Klaus looked at Jax and Monica. The 2 immediately exploded. Klaus's gaze made them very uncomfortable. It was a gaze even more explicit than Chun Zhao's. No need, Chun Zhao said. Let them stay and deal with the bodies, then let them go. Chun Zhao and the man sat in the helicopter. Joseph was used as a footrest and laid flat in front of the seat in the helicopter. What's your name? Jiggs. Jiggs stared at Joseph on the ground. His hands were trembling. However, he controlled his emotions very well. Just like the most delicious main dish, it must be served last. The helicopter slowly landed at the headquarters. Carry your wife, Chun Zhao said. But Jiggs looked at Joseph on the ground. Don't worry, he's yours. Here, you have a lot of time to satisfy your hatred for him. Only then did Jiggs pick up Maiev. Jolig and Wes came out to help. Jiggs carried Maiev to her room. Put her in that container. Chun Zhao pointed at a container in the center of the room. Jolig, get the oxygen pump. Chun Zhao instructed everyone. After putting on Maiev's oxygen mask, the container was filled with water. At the same time, he poured the perfect demonic crystal mixture into a container and poured 3 bottles into it. Then, he started pouring his immortal power into the container. Jiggs looked worried. Mr. Chun, can Maiev survive? Sure. Chun Zhao and Jolig started adjusting the heart rate monitor. There were basically all kinds of equipment in the association. Maiev was completely soaked in the liquid. After some work, they finally finished installing all kinds of equipment. Heart rate monitor, alarm, body temperature monitor, water temperature monitor. Jolig was in charge of the other aspects. Chun Zhao couldn't help much. It's done, Jolig said. Jiggs, let's go. It's time for revenge. Jiggs took a deep breath and walked out of the headquarters. Right now, Joseph was yelling in the empty space. He kept threatening everyone here with vicious words. However, his voice woke up the people who were resting. Many poked their heads out and looked at Joseph curiously. President, what's wrong with this guy? Helis walked out with a dark expression. A bug, Chun Zhao said calmly. Almost everyone came to watch. The evil spirit group came too. They were curious who dared to say such things here. Jiggs was still angry, but he was worried. He asked in a low voice, Mr. Chun, so many people are watching. Will your decision be okay? Huh. These guys like to watch more than me. I can do whatever I want. Of course. I want sulfuric acid, Jig said tentatively. Hey, you have potential. You want to soak him in sulfuric acid? No, I'm going to pour it into his stomach. Jigs, don't you dare. Joseph roared. I'll feed your whole family to the dogs. Sulfuric acid isn't fun. He'll die too quickly. I have something fun, Helis said. Jig shuddered. This young girl's words were terrifying. What is it? Chun Zhao asked curiously. Let me see. Helis returned to her lap. A few minutes later, she took out a bottle of black liquid. Jigs took the bottle and looked at the black liquid inside. The black liquid seemed to be alive. It kept climbing up. What is this? Jigs felt his hair stand on end. He instinctively felt that the black liquid in the bottle was something very dangerous. This is called the spirit of death. You can only get this much from 100 rotting corpses. Jigs almost dropped the bottle on the ground. 100 rotting corpses? This was extracted from rotting corpses? Hold it tight, Helis reminded. If you drop it, it'll contaminate the place. It'll be very troublesome to deal with. What will happen if he drinks it? Let him try. You'll know soon enough. Chen Zhao went up and pinched Joseph's mouth. Come here and pour this down. When Jigs opened the bottle, a pungent, rotten stench rushed out. Jigs immediately aimed the bottle at Joseph's mouth. Joseph struggled with all his might. Jigs saw that the black liquid in the bottle didn't flow into Joseph's mouth. Instead, it crawled into his mouth. Chen Zhao closed Jigs's mouth and pushed it away. Wah! Joseph fell to the ground and howled. He kept grabbing at his throat. Then he started retching again. Apart from saliva, nothing came out. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.